All right, well, young Turks, you crazy? We're gonna have an awesome show. Jake Uger, John Idarola with you guys. Is this guy the host of the Damage Report? Yes. Is it on at 1 o'clock Eastern every day, Monday through Friday? Yes. Is it an accurate title for a Trump term to do Damage Report first thing in the day? Yes. Okay, so speaking of which, there's some damage that we're gonna tell you guys about now, but not just to the country by Trump, but to Trump, including by some right wingers. So now Tim Pool going after him, and several others. So what are they angry about? It's different than all the other things we've told you about. So more pile-on against Trump from the right. That's fascinating. And then huge developments in the Epstein case. So we got two big stories to tell you about that, so you don't want to miss that as well. And which country he was associated with is not in question anymore.
Madagascar.
Yeah, I saw it in a movie. But mainstream media still hasn't figured it out. They're like, I don't know. Venezuela, Botswana, Madagascar, Malaysia. Maybe it's Malaysia. All right, well, we'll give you the stunning details. These, I didn't even know this. I learned a lot today, so I want to share it with you guys. All right.
Okay, we will get to that. We have a lot of that. But first, let's have a little bit of fun with some congressional hearings, starting with this.
Executive Order Domestic Terrorist Organization, Antifa. That's our primary concern right now. Is that's the most immediate violent threat that we're facing on the domestic side.
So where is Antifa headquartered?
What we're doing right now with the organization.
Where in the United States does Antifa exist?
Yeah.
If it's a terrorist organization and you've identified it as number one.
We are building out the infrastructure right now.
So they don't have headquarters because they're not an organization, because it's not a terror threat. And you look like a doof, and I think he knows it. The particular doof in question here is Michael Glasheen, the FBI's operations director of the National Security Branch, utterly struggling to make good on basically the entire domestic national security argument of the Trump administration, which is it's just Antifa. It's just nothing else. There's no right-wing terror, there's no white supremacist terror, no Christian nationalist terror. It's all Antifa, and they send that guy out, and I don't know what he thought was going to happen when he didn't prepare at all. We have more, by the way. Maybe he'll do better in future clips. But Cenk, I know that you liked Benny Thompson's questioning there. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I loved it. We're going to show you more of it. He messed them up. So look, we're also going to talk about the right-wing excuse for this, because they're going to need an excuse because this is brutal, right? And Benny Thompson, great job. Well, how often do I say that about Democrats in Congress? And so, but I want to just make one quick comment about that video we already saw, which is, he says, not only is where's their headquarters, but he then asks, where do they even exist? And the guy said, we're building out the infrastructure now. Wait a minute, if you need to build the infrastructure to figure out where Antifa even exists, how do you know they're the largest terrorist organization in America? You just told us that you don't even have the infrastructure to answer the most basic question about them, but you claim you already know they're the largest terrorist organization.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we're also going to give you the information on who actually is doing more terrorism in America. Well, that's coming up too.
Yeah, it's almost as if it's a problem when the president just decides what he wants to be the case and then tasks you to go make it seem like it might be true. That's not actually how you should run a government. Okay, but that was just one clip. Okay, let's give him another chance.
You say Antifa is a terrorist organization. Tell us as a committee, how did you come to that? Where do they exist? How many members do they have in the United States as of right now?
Well, that's very fluid. It's ongoing for us to understand that. The same, no different than Al Qaeda and ISIS.
No, I don't want you. I'll ask one question, sir. I just want you to tell us. If you said Antifa is the #1 domestic terrorist organization operating in the United States, I just need to know where they are, how many people. I don't want a name, I don't want anything like that. Just how many people have you identified with the FBI that Antifa is made of?
Well, the investigations are active.
So you wouldn't come to this committee and say something you can't prove, I know. I know you wouldn't do that. But you did.
Look, I don't believe what the administration's saying. I don't know that guy, but I'm inclined to not like him because of what he's doing. And even I am like, you gotta say something, man. Say a word. You can't just. Trump is watching and he is not gonna like that. So that guy's probably already been fired. But before, just in case, here's the issue for him. Okay, it's one thing to have Kristi Noem, Stephen Miller, whatever, pretend that Antifa's a threat or something. This guy has served with the FBI for more than 20 years, okay? Almost back to 9/11. So he has some experience with Al-Qaeda and with ISIS and all of that, and with right-wing domestic terror groups. He's been involved, he was in the counterterrorism division, director of the terrorist screening center. And so here's the big issue with him. He knows it's BS. He knows there's nothing to it, but he knows that he can't admit that because then he'll lose his job. I said on TDR this morning, it's very much like when Scott Bessent would go on air and he would be asked about like, so you know that tariffs raise prices, right? And he'd be like, no, they don't raise prices. He knows that they raise prices. This is the issue when you have pure self-serving ideologues in office. The truth doesn't matter, reality doesn't matter. Your own personal experience and expertise don't even matter. This is one guy in the administration who actually might be qualified to be in the position he's in, but unfortunately, his arms are tied with ideological shackles. And so when you put him up there, what's he supposed to say? He knows it's not true. He doesn't want to lie. He might have been under oath right there. But this, of course, is not just an issue of one hearing. It's an issue that could be facing any of us and might well face commentators like Cenk and myself, because 3 months ago, Trump proclaimed that Antifa is a major terrorist organization, even though it isn't. He put out a presidential memo directing the FBI to investigate the entire thing, prosecuting anti-fascists and other adherents for anti-Americanism. And thanks to the great work of a number of journalists, including Ken Klippenstein, we know with Pam Bondi's memo that almost anything that would be said on a random day here on the Young Turks could very well get you investigated by the DOJ, by the FBI, including anti-American sentiments like anti-Christianity, anti-capitalism, adherence to radical gender ideology, meaning that you accept the existence of trans people.
No, until the Democrats get in charge, then the radical gender ideology is going to be not accepting trans, and then we're going to put all of you in prison.
Yep.
Now, the reality is, of course, we're not going to do that, but
no, let's do it.
Because that would be mental, but if Biden had threatened that, if you have a radical gender ideology and you don't believe, and you dead name trans people, you're going to prison, right?
Yeah.
And you're a terrorist organization. You all would have lost your mind if you're right wing, right?
Yeah.
You would have lost. But now, and to be fair to the right wing, they haven't really seen too much of that yet, right? And so I think some portion of the right wing is going to peel off on that, because that's really over the top. Antifa, they're totally on board with what Trump is saying.
Exactly.
I'll get back to that in a second.
They should already be freaking out more about this, because all this is, hey, free speech? Yeah, we're taking out huge chunks of that. You literally can't even, look, hostility towards traditional views on family. You're saying I might be investigated if I have a different view on family? Okay, well, you know what? Lock up Donald Trump, because traditionally, you marry someone, you're faithful to them, you stay with them. But this dude's cheated on everyone he's ever been with, and he's had multiple marriages, which is hardly the traditional Christian view of family. Lock his ass up.
No, John, I read it in Leviticus that while thy wife is thou pregnant, you sexually assault a reporter, and then once she delivers, thou guestest a porn star, and then have a long affair with her and then pay her off later. I'm pretty sure it was Leviticus. It might have been Genesis, I forget, but it's very traditional.
Obviously, yeah, that section was wild. As a kid, I never really understood the specificity. It mentioned Mar-a-Lago. That was weird. But anyway, you could be locked up for having views in favor of mass migration and open borders. I mean, anything. Literally, the entire point of this is just, we want to somehow make being liberal, let alone anything beyond that, illegal. And look, maybe it never comes to actually locking up commentators, although they're definitely trying to get many of them fired. But maybe it's just maybe candidates. who espouse these ideas can't run for office. Maybe, fundraising organizations that allow candidates that espouse these ideas could be shut down because they're funding a terrorist organization or whatever. We know that there are ideological goals to this, but there's also obviously pragmatic political objectives to this. And so I'm certainly worried about that as well. And of course, as you alluded to, this is ridiculous on its face, but it's also costly. Because while Antifa is not a major terrorist organization, the most organization they have right now is, I've seen a little bit of synchronized twerking. I've seen a bit of that. That was impressive, But there are actual terrorist threats inside of the United States. And I'm sorry, generally they're right wing. And if the FBI isn't investigating those things, like how many times, Cenk, over the last few years, have we given credit to the FBI for like foiling a plot? Stopping someone who wanted to do a bombing, a shooting, start a race war. And like, thank God the FBI did some good work. They're not doing that work right now.
Yeah, and we did. We gave the FBI credit for all those busts. And I've said, look, I don't know what the CIA does. I know we're not supposed to know, but I've never seen it produce one decent thing for America in my lifetime or in anybody's lifetime. On the other hand, the FBI sometimes busts people that are about to do a huge terrorist strike, and it saves a lot of people's lives. So that's God bless. This guy's kind of the Colin Powell of this Antifa stuff, right? So, John, ask me a question about anything about TYT. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, what year did TYT even start?
Look, dude, I mean, you gotta prepare. I know you're Colin Powell. I know you don't want to be out there. I know they're like frog marching you out to the plank or whatever, right? And then, but like you got. Did you not think they would ask you a single question about Antifa, right? So one of our folks here, it's actually Edwin from the stage crew, asked, remind me of a good thing. He's like, wait, they just said on TV like a little while back that they caught Antifa leader's girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right? So who's the leader then? How many are there? Where are they? Etc. So now the right-wing excuse is, oh no, it's just like the mob. I mean, it's fluid. You can't tell where the mob is. I mean, it's so amorphous. No, it's not.
What?
No,
have they watched The Sopranos?
The FBI's been tracking the mob all this time. If you said to them how many folks are in the mob and where they headquartered, they would have a rational answer like, no, there's no one central headquarters for the quote unquote mob, but the New York families are obviously in New York and in Coney Island, et cetera, different bases. There's a Kansas City mob, there's a LA, Vegas, et cetera. And by how many are there? I can't give you a number like 1,387, but we know it's in the ballpark of tens of thousands. Or they would have answers because they investigated and they have a rough sense of it, right? And in fact, they might have a really good sense of it. How many members of Al Qaeda are in America? I hope it's zero, right? But if you're the FBI and you could reveal that information, maybe about the past, you would say, oh yeah, in 2007, we knew that there was this many people roughly, right? And we thought they were mainly based in Missouri and Hawaii. I don't know. There are answers if you've actually investigated people.
Yeah.
This is not among the answers. Okay, so guys, I mean, what is this? Okay, so and then Trump says, okay, being anti-fascist means being anti-American. Wait, what? I thought we were against fascists as a country. Remember when we defeated them in World War II? Like that was like one of our shining moments in American history. We defeated the Nazis, the fascists. Now it's un-American to be against fascists?
Would you have liked to have seen Benny Thompson ask that doof, hey, so what does Antifa mean? What's the fa in Antifa? And get him to actually say, well, they're anti-fascist.
Yeah, and so when you are anti something, what does that mean to you? It means you are against fascists. Okay, guys, and the reason why that's important is, so is Antifa just a super loose name for folks who wanna, be a little bit more aggressive in the streets and fighting back and et cetera? Or is it a general term or is it a group? Is it like, hey, it's got some sort of command, it's some sort of centralized orders. It goes, hey, they tell the guys in St. Louis, if you're gonna go to protest, do this. They tell the guys in New York, if you're gonna go and cause trouble, do that. Is it a real organization or is it just a term? Like, oh,
Environmentalist.
Yeah, like great point, right? Environmentalists. Like I could be an environmentalist, but I'm not part of some sort of environmentalist cabal that has like some sort of command structure and tells us what to do. If it's a loose term and it just means you're against fascism, well, that doesn't mean anything. I hope you're all against fascism, right?
Yeah.
Because I know, like, if you say the right wing is fascist, we've been through that a lot. They'll go crazy and say that they're not fascist. So then, good, we're all anti-fascist, right? And guys, if you say on the other hand, well, Cenk, I've seen it. There's guys and they got the masks and they threw a brick through a Starbucks window or something. Yeah, that's definitely true, guys. And you know what you do with that guy? You arrest him.
Yeah.
And then, by the way, then you ask him questions. Hey, did someone order you to throw the brick? Where are they located? Do you have a headquarters? Okay, are there other people involved? And if it turns out they're taking orders and there is some sort of structure, okay, then great, tell us about it, because I don't want any terrorist organization. We all live here, guys. Nobody wants terrorism because it could affect any of us.
Yeah.
So, no, this is like, it's not made up to say that there's guys who call themselves Antifa and have showed up at a protest and done some things wrong, right? That's not wrong, that is correct, okay? But to say that there are some sort of organized terrorist organization that then gives out orders to do different things seems to have zero evidence, none, and you just saw it from one guy.
Yeah, the quick comparison I made this morning is, we know how many times has there been some sort of mass shooting and they look into the person and they're like a disaffected, lonely, radicalized online guy who might be an incel. That's real. But like, could we just say there's incelfa? So now we need to investigate their leadership and their funding? No, just because it exists and there are some individuals doesn't make it an organization, even if it would be good for you propaganda-wise if that was the case.
Yeah, last thing is, let's tell you who actually does the terrorism. The FBI's shift is from The Intercept to focusing on alleged left-wing violence comes despite researchers at the Center for Strategic and International Studies finding that despite an increase this year, it remains much lower than historical levels of violence carried out by the right-wing and jihadist attackers. Okay,
yep.
Now look guys, again, that doesn't mean all right-wingers are evil, okay? It definitely doesn't mean all Muslims are jihadists, are very extreme radical Muslims that have nothing to do with the rest of mainstream Islam, etc. right? So we get it, we're fair to the right wing, we're fair to everybody, and we're fair to the folks on the left. And we're also fair in saying, hey, if anybody breaks the law, I don't care what their political affiliation is, put them in jail, that's it. And by the way, if you're in the left, and somebody comes to a protest and promises to do violence or break the law, turn them in. The reason I say turn them in is, one, it's the right thing to do. If they're gonna do violence, we're supposed to be moral. We're supposed to be for peace. We're supposed to be the good guys. So I'm billion% against violence. But secondly, they're probably there to ruin your movement. Because the minute you do violence, they're gonna round all of you up, right?
Yeah.
The minute anybody does violence or it breaks the law, that whether you're on the right or the left, you should realize that's a knucklehead move. I mean, I don't know if it's the feds. I don't know, apparently not, because the feds don't know anything, right? But that person is gonna get the rest of you all in trouble and is going to hurt your movement, whatever your cause is, right or left. So if you're on the right or the left, some knucklehead comes in and says, declares themselves whatever, Antifa, Profa, okay, whatever they are. Don't let them do violence or break the law. But there is no centralized command for Antifa. It's just a term that people use. And in fact, the right wing uses that term way more than the left wing does.
Yeah.
I know that some guys have called themselves that, but I've never met an Antifa guy. I don't know that I've ever met anyone who's met an Antifa guy.
Yeah.
And part of it is because what does it mean to be an Antifa guy? It's like a thing that sometimes some people say, and I don't even know who they are, right? So that's how loose and BS this is. And we shouldn't lock up right wingers because apparently right wingers do more terrorism inside the country. We shouldn't lock up left wingers. We shouldn't do crazy campaigns against both sets of ideologies. We should actually go get the people who did the violence, and that's it, and not do guilt by association for the rest of the country.
Agreed.
All right.
Okay, yeah, we should probably take a break though, because we have a lot of Epstein revelations and interesting journalism coming up after this.
on TYT. Let's do comments from our audience on TYT.com. Don't shoot on the goalkeeper says, hey, right wingers, if you're against Antifa, AKA against anti-fascism, guess what that makes you? Nerd Ferguson says, this is like The Office, but about the government instead of a paper company. That's a good analogy. Unfortunately, Art Guy, I'm reading all these blind, by the way. I wouldn't put it past these guys to arrest someone called Tifa and claim she's the head of the organization. If you have an aunt named Tifa, hide her now.
Yeah.
Okay, but good news, they don't know where she is. They don't know where any of them are. Sexy Speed Racer says, Antifa headquarters are located in an abandoned umbrella factory in Gotham City, and its leader is named the Penguin. Okay, or maybe the leader of Antifa fell into a vat of chemicals, I don't know. Eclectic Miscellaneous says, MAGA's a lot closer to being a terrorist organization than Antifa's. I hear you, Eclectic, but let's not call each other terrorists. Like, nothing good comes of it. And I've been guilty of it in the past too. Like when right-wing domestic terrorism was at its peak, I was pretty livid about it, etc. Right? But I know that especially the left and especially Muslims, but really for all of us, the minute we start calling each other terrorists, we're doomed. So especially big political movements. But I know what you're saying. Like Antifa barely even exists, and MAGA's gigantic. And has there been more violence from guys who call themselves MAGA versus guys who call themselves Antifa? Oh, definitely, right? But that doesn't mean everybody in MAGA is guilty, and certainly doesn't mean anybody on the left is guilty. All right, Don Dada Dragon says, the FBI and the mob are connected. J. Edgar Hoover used to get dirt on them in the Blue Room in Manhattan. The mob, of course, had dirt on Hoover. He liked to cross-dress at the upscale mob-affiliated parties. The FBI, like any intelligence agency, loves blackmail. A political group bent on dismantling democracy would probably be clearly mapped out by now. Yeah, that was in the old days, though. I mean, I don't know how competent the FBI or the CIA these days, but I hear you, and they definitely did work with the mob. They worked with a lot of folks, and I don't want to get back into the old terrible FBI. Vote Progressive says Democrats. This is Twitch now. Democrats are still weak and pathetic with only a few exceptions. Thank you, Benny. But I do want to double down on that. Thank you, Benny Thompson, for nice questioning there.
Yeah.
It does, I wish it happened all the time, but that was beautiful, and he put on a clinic there. Sea Prince Reborn Dragon says, it's fair to say that in these 41 months, this is the first time I've seen any Dems doing a good job at anything. Okay, well, there you go. But look, that's the other thing, guys. I would love giving credit where credit is due. If the Democrats kicked ass like this all the time, I'd be on here telling you how great the Democrats are.
Yeah.
Right? Watch streak for Pagan Dragon 41567 is 7, and he says 7 stream streak. This is a new thing on Twitch. You all make sense out of this chaos. Thank you, brother. We appreciate it. On YouTube, Infrared Jet says, I lost all hope with our FBI and CIA when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Well, not only that, but I mean, the investigation so far has been problematic to say the least. All right, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and John with you guys, but also Ken Bramstead, 2794, just became a member on YouTube by hitting that big, beautiful button below. We appreciate you guys. We can't do literally can't do the show without you. You make all this happen, and we appreciate it so much. Dawn Whitehead gave 5 Young Turks memberships on YouTube. You guys are the heart of this community. All right, now a quick word about our sponsor here, Noble. Okay, we're with Noble Mobile. Andrew Yang started that company. You know why? Because he likes to give away money. That's a nice little niche he's got. I mean, who doesn't like a guy who's constantly giving away money? So in this case, if your telephone bill is above $50, there's no reason at all not to switch and save a ton of money. I did, in the first month, I didn't even pay $50. They give you cash back if you don't use all your data, and it's a big number. So apparently I didn't use it, even though I use data like crazy. So I
would imagine so.
Yeah, and I only paid $39. They gave me like $11 back, okay? So tyt.com/switch, tyt.com/switch. Like, don't worry. I know I panic too, like, oh no, is it gonna change my phone? My phone's identical. Literally nothing has changed except my bill, which is way lower, okay? All right, John.
Okay, well, we got a lot to get into. Jeffrey Epstein, all of his connections, so much is developing. Let's jump into it.
Our plan is to demand that the president release the files, and we'll see what he does on the 19th. But I think, again, these pictures, some of these photos are really disturbing. And I know we've put some out today. There are many others. And some of the other photos that we did not put out today are incredibly disturbing.
Well, we don't know about the ones that will be coming, but we do know the ones that are already here are not fun and don't necessarily reflect well, not only on Donald Trump, but on a number of other associates of Jeffrey Epstein that include a lot of very rich, very well-connected, powerful men. And that includes people like Bill Clinton, Steve Bannon, Larry Summers, and more. And as Representative Garcia alludes to there is this deadline coming up for the Justice Department to release the FBI redacted Epstein files. I'm sure they'll do it, but for now we have these photos, which we're gonna dive into, but what was your immediate reaction when you saw them?
Yeah, so I care less about the photos and more about what it proves about Jeffrey Epstein. So I know that he was friends with Trump and Clinton. We got Trump and Clinton in these pictures. We'll show you all the pictures in a second. But what I want to tell you about is, after you see the pictures, how incredibly powerful Jeffrey Epstein was. He was actually one of the most powerful men on earth. This is not a rando who was just doing a side sex operation, okay? No, this was at the hub of power on the planet. So you see the most powerful people in the pictures, and then I'll tell you the rest of the story.
Exactly. Well, why don't we jump into the pictures? Bear in mind, we don't have a lot of data about when they were sent, who they were sent to, why these individual ones were kept, how representative they are of the 95,000 others that might well be coming. But here's a fun one to start off with. This photo shows a bowl of condoms, and they're Trump condoms. $4.50 each, which seems a little expensive. And it's labeled, "I'm huge," with a very flattering photo of Donald Trump. Now, we don't know if Trump was at that particular party, why exactly Jeffrey Epstein, if they were his condoms that he was selling, why exactly there were condoms available at this particular party in Donald Trump's honor. What was going on at the party that they expected they'd be necessary, or is it just some sort of inside joke? I don't know. Maybe there's an explanation that doesn't cast them both in a bad light, but I don't know what it is. And then of course you have the photos where Donald Trump actually appears. So here he is with 6 women wearing leis. Their faces have all been redacted by the committee. We don't know who they are. We just know that Donald Trump is there. He's looking very casual. His shirt is unbuttoned. He's got a big handful of that one woman's side, but we don't know what year the photos were taken. We don't know the context. We also have these photos. On the left, you can see Donald Trump with an unidentified woman. There's another one where Trump is next to Epstein at an event while speaking to a blonde woman. Interestingly, her face is not redacted, and many other individuals in the photo is not redacted. But in the 2 prior photos with either one woman or 6, their faces were redacted. And at this point, we're left to wonder why exactly you would redact some faces but not others. One, I think, semi-plausible hypothesis that I've heard is that the ones whose faces were redacted potentially were victims or survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. We don't know for sure, but that is one explanation. So that's Donald Trump. He's not the only one that was in these photos, though. You also have Steve Bannon. Here he is taking a fun mirror selfie with Jeffrey Epstein. They're just having fun, 2 fun guys, wild and crazy, just hanging out and figuring out how to launder Epstein's reputation, which is what Steve Bannon was doing, and not nearly enough right-wingers are furious about it. Here he is, they're having a little meeting of the minds. If we zoom in, there's a framed photo of a woman lying on a bed or a couch there. So Jeffrey Epstein, even at that late date of those photos, wasn't exactly hiding his interests or anything, and he left it out for Steve Bannon to show up. But of course, Steve Bannon's not gonna be dissuaded by that photo. He knew at this point everything that Epstein had done and still wanted to work with the guy. And so that's some Republicans. As we alluded to, you also have Bill Clinton right here. You can see him with Ghislaine Maxwell, with Jeffrey Epstein as well. We also have Larry Summers, who is on a plane in this next photo. And as of right now, he seems like the guy who's suffered the most from this scandal so far this year. He's actually like stepped down from positions and everything. But there's a lot more, including, again, many prominent Democrats. And so the Democrats who released this might have thought, well, we're clearly being fair. We put out the Donald Trump ones, we put out the Bill Clinton ones. Didn't stop the White House from implying that this is some sort of scam or hoax just to attack Donald Trump. And that's what they claimed, baselessly claiming that the idea that they were close friends or had any sort of affiliation had been debunked. That's utterly ridiculous. They were best friends for many years. And so that's what we have right now. There's a lot of photos still to come out. What do you make of it?
Yeah, so first couple of notes on the photos. So the girls whose face were redacted next to Trump, the leading theory is that they, as John's told you, they're redacting the ones that might have been victims or whatever. On the other hand, when you look at the picture, they don't look overly young, right? It's impossible to tell, of course, but I looked as careful as I could, and they looked like they were adult women. Okay, so not overly old either, right? But they didn't look like they were teenagers. But you could make up your own mind. I have no special expertise on it. I'm just telling you what I saw, okay? So now, one of the other pictures had this Trump condoms, and he's huge. So Epstein and Trump are constantly making jokes about sex throughout their very, very long relationship. There was a picture of an young girl, tied up in a sexual position. So it's like, the reason I tell you all that is because all these guys, did they know that he was committing illegal acts with underage girls? No, we don't know that yet, right? But did they generally know that Jeffrey Epstein liked sex and was obsessed with it, and that was a huge part of knowing Jeffrey Epstein, was that he would throw these, would get you sex, basically. Everyone knew that, everyone, right? That was not a secret at all, right? And did a lot of people, including Trump, know that he liked young girls? Yes, they would say it. Trump said it. He said, oh, people say Jeffrey likes sex as much as I do, but he likes them on the young side. He said it, right? Yeah. So, all right, so now that's his connections to all these super powerful people. Now, the question is, yeah, but is he just a rando running a side hustle here, etc.? Or is there some significant maneuvering behind the scenes, political maneuvering, using that information that he has on the powerful for a purpose, right? And the answer seems to be, based on the emails, yes. Mm-hmm. So, Dropsite News has a series of incredible articles about this because they've got the leaked emails. The reason that Larry Summers is in the biggest trouble and had to quit a bunch of jobs is because other leaked emails that Dropsite News has, not the ones that are coming into Congress from this state, show that Larry Summers and Epstein used to strategize about how Larry Summers could have sex with people that worked under him and use his position of power to manipulate the women and insist on sex. It was like, terrible, right?
Yeah.
And so we're gonna tell you more about that later in the show, because there's some new emails that show overwhelming connection to Israel. The largest Israel charity that gave to pro-Israel causes in America, run by Jeffrey Epstein, basically. So now, but to get to the point about power, let me read you one section here from Dropsite News. The trove of emails exchanged at the height of the Syrian civil war between 2013 and 2016 reveal Epstein's successful efforts to secure a private meeting between Ehud Barak, who's the former prime minister of Israel, and Russian President Vladimir Putin to discuss a Russian brokered end to the conflict, including winning Russia's support for a negotiated removal of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Guys, think about that. I mean, look, this has already been out for about a month or so. Traditional news has not picked it up at all because it contains the word Israel in it. So they're like, no, protect Israel at all costs, but we're not controlled or anything. But look at that, just that one quote. How is that not a gigantic, so put Israel aside, how is that not a gigantic story? Here is a guy so powerful that the former prime minister of Israel cannot get a meeting with Putin, but Epstein calls up and says, hey, Vlad, let's go. You're meeting with Ehud Barak. And Putin says, yes, sir. Putin says, yes, sir. And they have the meeting. That's unbelievable. And what are they meeting about? Some side thing, a financial deal or whatever? No, they're meeting to decide the fate of Syria. And will Russia help Israel topple Bashar al-Assad? Or is Russia going to stay loyal to Bashar? There was no question that was more central at the time in geopolitics in the world, on the planet. So Epstein is at the very epicenter of power. He's deciding or helping to decide which countries fall and which countries don't. This is not a side character. What the press is doing is absolute malpractice in treating this as like, oh, it's just a sex thing. No. This was all about power. And in the emails, you see Epstein talking about how can we get America to bomb Syria? How can we get America to bomb Iran? Yes, back then, right? So he works with intelligence officers for Malaysia. No, I'm kidding. Israel, of course. And so there's an intelligence officer that stays with Epstein over and over again. So that's Israeli spies staying with Epstein. And then here's this little clip from Dropsite News. On December 8th, 2014, that guy's name is Yoni Koren, okay? And on December 8th, 2014, Ehud Barak emailed Koren to inform him of his plans to take his daughter and 2 grandkids to Washington, D.C. in the spring, writing, I want to take them to the White House and get there something more than the regular public tourist visits. Please see if you can be of help. So do you understand what's happening here? So the former prime minister of Israel is asking an Israeli spy staying with Jeffrey Epstein to get him and his granddaughters a meeting at the White House. Do you know how much power you have to be able to say, hey, White House, let's go. Everybody up and at him. You're gonna do what this guy's ordering you to do, okay? Jeremy Bash was a top aide to Leon Panetta at the time. And remember, at the time, Barack Obama's president, okay? So Obama's top aide to Panetta, one of the largest figures in the Obama administration. What happened? Barack, his daughter, and his 2 grandchildren visited the White House and the Pentagon on March 31st. At the Pentagon, by the way. They received a Secret Service escort, a guided tour from Yael Lempert, a special assistant to President Obama, and the National Security Council director for Levant, Israel, and Egypt. Lempert later negotiated the largest military aid package in American history, a 10-year, $38 billion package for Bolivia. Oh no, Israel in 2016. Okay. Bruh. So we're really having a conversation about whether Epstein was connected to Israel. He's having Israeli spies stay with him. The Israeli spies have so much power, they order the Obama White House around, and they have a guided tour for the Israeli prime minister. Not just at the White House where he planted God knows how many bugs, but at the Pentagon. Literally, former CIA agents are on tape saying we never let the Israelis in because they would try to plant a bug every single time, okay? So this guy's at the epicenter of power. He could call Putin, he could call Obama, he can call anyone and get a meeting. He has Israeli spies and Israeli former prime ministers staying at his residence. So these pictures you're seeing with the most powerful people on earth, it's not a coincidence, it's not a side story. That's who was running the world. And he potentially had blackmail on the biggest figures in the world. And gee, I wonder if he used it. Gee, I wonder if that was part of the point. I mean, at this point, you really have to be one of the most naive guys in the planet to be like, oh, I think it was just random. He was going to be a dentist, and then he decided to run this sex ring and become one of the most powerful men on earth. But I bet he didn't use that power, even though every email says he used it on behalf of Israel. And Israeli spies everywhere.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing, John? Isn't it amazing that legacy media, cable news, etc., nothing, not a peep. Like these are the most startling revelations. They're confirmed, and they're like, no, not interesting. How could that not be interesting?
Yeah.
How could that not be news?
I mean, I'd love to see, well, assuming that there was any emailing like that they wanted to cover, where exactly it gets stopped. Like, is it just like a standing thing? You don't talk about this stuff. Is it individual stories being spiked? Individual like sites for news? You're being told don't, like if it comes from Dropsite or whatever, like literally don't even pay attention to it. Like I wonder exactly how they're stopping it. You've been on the inside, you've seen some of that.
I'll tell you, look, I was in DC recently, had a meeting with a reporter, obviously all off the record, not gonna say who. And when I asked, well, it seems like you guys don't run many stories on Israel and and some of the atrocities, etc. Are you not allowed to run them? And she did this. like meaning I obviously can't talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's super obvious I can't.
Yeah,
right?
They might be listening right now.
Like, what is this? What the hell is this?
Yeah.
And so if you say that that's all perfectly normal, you're obviously lying.
Yeah.
So then the question is, why is all of traditional media deciding to ignore that Epstein was one of the most powerful men on earth and knew all the other powerful men and got God knows what out of them?
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, like there is at least some conversation about him right now, but like that reflects poorly on Trump and could potentially do him a lot of damage. What if we had a situation where it wasn't a matter of maybe this could hurt Trump anymore? Would it be talked about at all?
Yeah.
Would they cover any of it if it didn't have that objective?
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of answers to that. So first off, Epstein was already convicted of having sex, and it was with underage girls. They called the soliciting prostitution, but it was really underage sex, and everybody knew that. And that was all the way back in 2007, right?
Yeah, he's still getting all these meetings and everything afterward.
And the press just let it go. They're like, oh, we know that he was with Clinton and Trump, et cetera, et cetera. It took this magnificent reporter at Miami Herald, Julie Brown, to break the story that led to Epstein's arrest back in 2019. But the rest of the media was like, oh, there's a giant sex ring with a guy who's connected to Bill Gates and Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and all these things. Not interesting. Oh, and he got a totally light sentence where he could actually use the prison as a hotel and just leave the prison whenever he wanted. And he even got a day off from prison.
Yeah.
What is this, right? And it was literally only one reporter in the country who was like, that's strange.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into it, okay? Yeah. And that was before the 2019 bust. And after the 2019 bust, again, it's the most like amazing story. It's captivated the imagination of the whole country. Yeah. Except the media, they're like, I'm not interesting. And John, right now, they're in a frenzy. They're talking about Epstein, right?
Yeah.
But they're not talking about the most relevant part, right? Yeah. The power part. They're not, under no circumstances are they allowed to mention the word Israel connected to Epstein, even though the emails are all Israel. Israel. How can we get Israel's policies passed? How do we do this? How do we do that, right? And they're like, lie. If you're in traditional media, your job is to lie to the American people and suppress real news. But the thing where they're going nuts on Trump and covering it a lot, I think it might have two purposes. One is, oh, okay, people care about Trump, but also let's make it seem like this is all about Trump.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Take your eye off of why he did it. Don't worry about why he did it. Just Trump. And I even saw like Israel First accounts being like, oh, Trump. Oh, all of a sudden, oh, Trump, right?
Yeah, they can get in on it. Yeah. And by the way, isn't it crazy that after that first sweetheart deal, again, the prison's basically a resort. They did basically the same thing with Ghislaine Maxwell. Like even after all the additional stuff we know, they can still get away with the same thing. But in any event, I think we should probably take our second break. We're getting on there. We'll see if we can get into some of this polling to see how gullible the American people actually are or are not after this.
All right, let's go to Super Chat. Diane Lajewski, 8650. You're awesome. Thank you for contributing. We appreciate you. Janet, AKA Gemstar Dragon, now YouTube members, saying, I once made a milestone chat saying that Israel and Russia has dirt on Trump, and that's why he won't release the Epstein files. Cenk read it and dismissed it. Turns out I was right. Serves me right, Janet. Okay, way to go. If that was your theory and I reacted that way, which I totally believe you, maybe you were totally right. So, atta girl. That's why, by the way, guys, look, that's one of a billion reasons why. Open mind. I read these comments, I'm right, you're right, doesn't matter. We're all community, we're having these conversations and we're learning from each other. Okay, so speaking of which, Killjoy100 says, to be fair, the Hoover cross-dressing thing was never proved, might have just been a costume at a party. Bubba Franks also wrote in and said, not only was the cross-dressing thing never proven, it was also never corroborated by anyone except someone that had been convicted on numerous unrelated perjury charges, a very untrustworthy woman, but Hoover did have a lifelong male companion that he left his estate to.
I did not know that it had never been proven.
Yeah, I'm not sure that I knew that either. Like I thought he cross-dressed. I didn't know those caveats. So awesome, thank you guys for letting us know about that. But he did have a lifelong male companion. It doesn't look, I mean, he was LGBTQ from my estimation. That doesn't mean anything. It's not a slight against other LGBTQ folks. Roy Cohn also was LGBTQ. That doesn't mean anything, right? So G Love says, I mean, you know what? Like if everyone reacted, if every group reacted like Israel, they'd be like, how dare you say anything about Roy Cohn and McCarthyism? You're just anti-gay. Like, what? That has nothing to do with what Roy Cohn did, right? So, how dare you criticize J. Edgar Hoover for murdering his political opponents? You're anti-gay. That's literally what the Israeli side does. They sound like lunatics, they just don't know it. Ray Zavala Chosen says, I sell condoms at all my family functions. G Love says, those photos they released are nothing. Release some of the real damaging photos on that clump of poo. Okay, if they have it, so that we don't know yet. Okay, Nerd Ferguson on TYT.com says, every answer is Israel. I gotta stop guessing Trinidad and Tobago.
Someday it'll be them. We're watching you.
Okay, Ray of Sunshine says, okay, NGL, I thought the Trump condoms were a meme when I saw them on social media this morning. More unsettling to know that they were real. Yeah, NGL, by the way, says, not gonna lie. Okay, I'm cool, so I know that. Greg Hill says, if Epstein was so vastly powerful, how and why did he fall? Well, I mean, they hid it for decades. Only because of that Julie Brown story in the Miami Herald could they not hide it anymore. She should get every award in journalism. All right, we'll be back. You guys are cracking me up. Sorry, Cenk and John with you guys. I was just reading member comments. First of all, Khalid YTH7N, thank you for joining, brother. We appreciate it. Hit that join button if you can. Zelda Symphony on TYT.com said, Antifa does have a leader. It's Queen Latifah. She's also an aunt. She endorsed Kamala Harris. That never happens. There's a connection. I love that reference to that never happens. That was a Joy Reid comment, of course. Benjamin asks, will Andrew Yang give me more money to direct transfer work? Direct transfer works best. And not quite direct transfer to your account, but Noble Mobile's close. I'm gonna read one last one because it was so nice. Zelda Symphony wrote, and I referred more people through my social services work to Noble Mobile. I explained it to them and said how it's cheaper and just as good as major corporate phone scams, companies. That's awesome that you did that. TYT.com/switch, because it really does save people money and it doesn't change your phone at all. All right, John.
Okay, let's jump into a little bit more coming out of the Epstein revelation, starting with this.
This is another question that is Israel blackmailing the US government with the Jeffrey Epstein files? Again, what a ridiculous kind of unfounded, unverified allegation. It emanates from someone's imagination, but nobody's provided one shred of evidence to indicate that there's any truth to it.
So that is Mike Huckabee. If you've been paying attention to the coverage here on the Young Turks about him, you're not gonna be surprised at the way he responded to that question and his assertion that no, Epstein, there's nothing to do with the Israeli government, past or present, no advocating for their policies, their foreign policy goals or anything. No, there's no evidence of that except for the lots of evidence of that, which we're gonna get to and profile, including new evidence. But what do you make of that?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, Mike Huckabee, for giving us an opportunity to give you a mountain of evidence connecting Epstein to Israel. It is overwhelming. Okay, and then later, I also want to talk about why do these American politicians serve Israel, right?
Yeah.
Why is he Mike Huckabee and not Mike Huckabee? And so I want to show you the numbers behind that as well.
Yeah, and why was he, I don't want to critique a guy's like fashion or whatever, why did he have an American flag pin? That implies that he represents our country.
Yeah, it's
seems
weird.
Dishonest, but anyway, we've been covering some of the fascinating revelations from Dropsite News for some time, and the latest has to do with newly uncovered ties between Jeffrey Epstein and the Wexner Foundation. So this is a charitable organization that, among other things, uses its vast resources to support the Israeli government. And so here's some background on the organization. I wouldn't expect that you'd be very familiar with it. I wasn't previously. Leslie Wexner, the named individual behind the organization, is an American billionaire with, as many billionaires have had, close ties to Jeffrey Epstein himself. He ran businesses including Victoria's Secret and Bath and Body Works. Epstein was actually his financial manager for 20 years. So they go back for a very long time. And he wasn't just like a financial guy, he was in very good with Wexner. He had complete power of attorney over his estate and affairs. That is a vote of legal confidence of Jeffrey Epstein there. Wexner even sold Epstein one of his homes. So maybe there's like a weird friend thing going on between them as well. Interestingly, as early as the mid-1990s, at least two of Wexner's fellow executives were warning him that it was strange that Jeffrey Epstein was so interested in serving as a recruiter for models for Victoria's Secret. Yeah, that is a little bit strange. That's a little bit interesting and very much in line with what we know about Jeffrey Epstein. Wexner did nothing in regard to that. Either it didn't bother him or there were other reasons he didn't want to do anything that Epstein wouldn't like. But in any event, the foundation is a vehicle for his philanthropic efforts. And we do know some information about Jeffrey Epstein's involvement in that as well. So there was a review done months after Epstein died of the organization. And the review claimed that Wexner Foundation staff had no contact with Epstein after his resignation as a trustee way back in September 2007. And before that, he played no role in the management or administration of the foundation's operations, had no meaningful role in the foundation's budget or finances, and did not make decisions regarding the use of foundation's funds. It turns out that that was a lie. Every bit of that was 100% a lie. Staff apparently treated him as a de facto chief financial officer, making major decisions about taxes, lines of credit, 8-figure funds transfers, politically sensitive grants. All of that went through Epstein's lawyer and required Epstein's personal approval. There are a number of emails where Wexner's financial controller, Peg Ugland, wrote to Darren Indyke, who served as both Epstein's personal lawyer and attorney for the foundation, with account balances for a web of Wexner entities, including charitable trusts, private investment vehicles, personal trading accounts, with a recurring refrain, "Please ask Jeffrey if I can transfer," which is about as direct as it could possibly be, and yet they found no control, no influence he had over the organization. So what was the foundation doing with its money? Well, apparently between 2003 and 2018, Inside Philanthropy tallied nearly $130 million donated by the Wexners to Israeli and Jewish charitable causes, making them the third largest donor to such causes in the US during that period. It did things like funding all expense paid birthright and Hillel trips and bankrolling a variety of different fellowships like the Wexner Israel Fellowship, which sent Israeli government officials to Harvard on full scholarships. And so all the charitable stuff might be all well and good, totally fine, but Epstein was involved with it apparently for many years in a very direct and controlling financial sense.
Yeah, so this is in effect the largest charity of pro-Israel causes in America. By the way, a couple of interesting conclusions come out of these revelations that I did not know before. So first of all, I didn't know if Wexner was in on it or if he was a victim, because he gives Epstein power of attorney over all of his finances decades ago, which is a stunning move for, especially for a guy this rich. That's the kind of thing you do usually only under duress, right? So I thought, did he blackmail Wexner, and Wexner's not in on it, but he had to go along, etc. But when you read the emails, no, Wexner's totally I'm not saying he's in on it in terms of the crimes. I'm saying him and Epstein are very good friends, very friendly. When Epstein gets caught, he's super sad, and he's like, "Oh, you violated your #1 rule, which is not getting caught." Okay, wait. If they're all innocent, why is that your #1 rule? Okay, that seems kind of like a confession. So Wexner is involved in these proceedings, okay? Number two interesting thing that I didn't know, one of their top targets is young Jews in America. They gotta get them to Israel and they gotta give them propaganda that is pro-Israel. Like, remember, if you're Jewish, you have to support this government, that government, right? Like, if you think about it, no, you don't. I'm Turkish, I don't have to support the Turkish government, right? But there's constant money flowing in to get young Jewish Americans, Israel, that's your real home, that's who you should have loyalty to. It's really sick. So now, when you, and by the way, Victoria's Secret, women in undress, etc. The other thing that Wexner ran was Abercrombie and Fitch. If you remember the controversies we've covered in these years about them, they use really young kids in different states of undress, right?
Yeah.
And so it's apparently a theme, all right? So, but he made a ton of money and they used it, all of it, to help Israel. Right, when it comes to the philanthropy part. And was Epstein involved in that? Well, as John read to you, and you read the whole thing, and we'll put the link for Dropsite News, who's doing great reporting on this issue in the description box. And you see that, Epstein has to approve almost all the financial transactions. So he's directing it, he's making the decisions. So he's like, all right, we're gonna help Israel this way, we're gonna help Israel that way, we're gonna take the money and funnel it to pro-Israel causes like this. So the idea that Epstein's not connected to Israel is hilarious. He's not running a pro-Paraguay charity, right? He's not looking to help the Vietnamese. In every email, it's Israel. What do we do for Israel? How can we help Israel, right? So if you're thinking, okay, that's hyperbole, and it is to some degree because it's not every email, right? But it is overwhelming in the emails. So I'll give you a quick list if you don't mind. So how is Epstein connected? This is through all the different Dropsite News stories and others that came out. Well, Epstein helped negotiate a security agreement between Israel and Mongolia. Epstein helped arrange a meeting between former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak and Vladimir Putin in 2013. Epstein helped establish a security meeting between Israel and the Ivory Coast in 2014. Epstein repeatedly hosted an Israeli spy at his Manhattan residency from 2013 to 2016. Epstein attempted to procure investments for Israeli cyber weapon startups. I mean, he's even procuring weapons for Israel. Epstein helped Alan Dershowitz attack the authors of the Israel lobby. Epstein exerted control over the Wexner Foundation, which funded pro-Israel causes. So, and that's just some of the material. And when and one of the things that we're leaving out of that list is the emails where he's strategizing about how to get America to attack Syria on behalf of Israel. And other emails where he talks about how to get America to attack Iran on behalf of Israel. Now, if you say things now, it's totally proven. If you said Israel wanted to manipulate America into attacking Iran, in mainstream media, they'll say you're a conspiracy theorist and an anti-Semite, and you should never be allowed to speak in media again, right? But it's already proven. It wasn't like he's like, all right, well, there's a deal with Mongolia and and Holland and Ivory Coast and Holland. I mean, if you take out Israel, put in any other country, everyone would be talking about that country, right? Imagine if Epstein, all of his connections were to China. Do you think that no one would mention that?
Yeah.
Like literally everyone would mention that, right? If all of his connections were to Russia, would no one mention that? He'd be like, shh, don't talk about the Russians. Don't talk about the Chinese. We wouldn't want to offend them. But it's about Israel. And the entire so-called news media is working together to block the news. Isn't that amazing? They're not in the news business. They're in the propaganda business. And so that's why independent reporting makes so much difference. And John, I want to now connect it back to Huckabee, right? So Huckabee says, oh, golly gee, it's so conspiratorial and crazy to say that Epstein might have been connected to Israel. Right? So we know he's a sellout bitch, right? We know that he works for Israel. Now, it's not just the left wing, the right wing hates him. I got Huckabee from a right winger, okay? And so he's the biggest cuck, he's a giant sellout, and he'll do anything for his beloved Israel, okay? And now, by the way, I called him Gonzo. I said, I know we can't call him a puppet, maybe I'll call him a Muppet. And they're like, oh, Hook knows, Muppet. Huckabee's Christian, or at least I thought he was. Are we not allowed to make Muppets anyway? So, all right, now, but why? Why do they have this unbelievable lock on our politicians where Huckabee's like, Israel's the greatest, Israel! He's like, dude, look at America on your pin, right? So here's why. Here's another thing that mainstream media never talks about. So The Guardian had a great story 2 years ago. I'll give you an updated number at the end, but this gives you a good enough sense. So the volume and breadth of the pro-Israel donor spending is considerable in America. Over $58 million went to the current Congress members, and all but 33 received donations. So now the number is larger. I'll give you the number for the last election, but that number is amazing. So that means that the number of Congress people taking money from the Israeli lobby is 502 out of 535. 94% of Congress gets money from the Israeli lobby. And corporate media in our country, all the guys you know, ABC, CNN, New York Times, etc., they say that is not a relevant fact. Because our Congress people are such saints, they don't care at all that they're all being legally bribed by Israel.
If I could just briefly speak up in the media's defense, they also ignore every other campaign finance story.
That's right, that is true.
Donors are irrelevant always.
Yeah, I mean, really, do you have to be brain dead to become a national media reporter? Hey, you think it might be relevant that Pfizer is giving a ton of money to these Congress people and then we can't negotiate drug prices? That big pharma is much bigger than AIPAC and the #1 lobby. And we are the only country in the history of the earth that is not allowed to negotiate drug prices while pretending to be in a free market. And you don't think that's relevant to their decisions? No, national media reporters are the worst. Their job is anti-news. Okay, so let me give you the real news again. Guardian's independent, and they did a brilliant job with this. About 82% of Congress members were more supportive of Israel, and just 9% more supportive of Palestine during this period. They're talking about the month and a half after October 7th, so this is early on. The remainder had mixed views. So, hey, look, 94% took the money, but only 82% were over the top supportive of Israel. So I appreciate that clarity. And there's a good reason for that. Why? Well, legislators categorized as supportive of Israel received about $125,000 on average during their last election. That's just their last election. While those supportive of Palestine on average took about $18,000. So it's not like they're not bribing the other guys either, right? And all the bribes are legal because the Supreme Court made them legal, right? But they're like, oh, we only got 18,000. We're allowed to vote against them. The others are like, oh man, 125,000 is a lot. Okay, well, you own us, Israel. Yes, Israel, 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 right? Don't tell me they're not doing that. We have eyes and ears. This is like people, the mainstream media is like, no, Joe Biden's not old. He's young and dynamic. Okay, no, 94% of Congress taking money from the Israeli lobby, 82% of them on average taking 125,000 just in the last cycle. Doesn't matter to them because they're angels. You'd have to be the dumbest person in America, again, or a national media reporter, or a cable news anchor. Legislators characterized as supportive of Israel. I read that one to you guys, I think. So now, the analysis of Congress's members' responses in this period found that 93% called for US military or financial support for Israel. That's almost the same exact number of the people who took money from the Israeli lobby. And look at that, they all agreed. Take your wallet out, shut up, and give it to Israel. Okay, 81% supported Israel's response, which was brutal already within the first month and a half. 17, and remember, that's the group that didn't get paid enough, so the 19%. 17% criticized Israel or called for a ceasefire, 17% contextualized the war. Okay, so now, last part of it is kind of a thing you might not know. Some of you know it, some of you don't. #1 target of the Israeli lobby. Who is it? Well, it turns out it's progressives. The top 6 recipients of pro-Israel donor support in 2022 were centrist Democrats. Those are the ones who received the money. Centrist Democrats who defeated progressives in the primaries and collectively accounted for around $25 million or about 42% of the donor's spending. So the Israeli lobby is disastrous for the country, and it doesn't manipulate. It just buys our politician and gets them to serve a different country. But it's the most toxic to honest people on the left who don't take corporate PAC money and who don't take Israeli lobby money. They despise that. Yeah. They're like, no, if there is a single person we don't own, we're gonna destroy you. And they did. They spent 4 million against Nina Turner, 6 million against her, 18 million against Jamal Bowman, around the same number against Cori Bush, because they want to send a message. You all have to sell out to Israel. If anyone dares defy Israel, we'll spend $18 million burying you and making sure you never represent your own voters. You're to represent Tel Aviv and Haifa and Jerusalem. And if you do not, we're gonna end your career. And they did. They ended the career of a lot of people, including, by the way, their most spectacular fight back when this all started was against Andy Levin. Andy Levin is from Michigan, and all his main crime, and by the way, he's not only from a legendary Jewish family in Michigan, family members who were senators, etc. He calls himself a Zionist, but he made the mistake of saying, I think the Palestinians are also human, so we should do a two-state solution. Keep Israel safe, but give the Palestinians a state. They're like, no, that's our land. We're gonna steal that land. How dare you defy us? Eliminate the Jew, okay? And they put in a non-Jewish person, Haley Stevens, who is the biggest sellout in all of Congress, who votes with the Republicans and says, no, never block funding to Israel. I serve Israel loyally. So this doesn't have anything to do with Jewish American, Christian American. They eliminate Jews as well because their only goal is America, Jewish American, Christian American, doesn't matter. You all have to serve Israel. So finally today, where are we at? The American Israel Public Affairs Committee, that's AIPAC. Now this is from Common Dreams. A powerful lobbying group widely known as AIPAC has officially spent more than $100 million in the 2024 election cycle so far, pouring staggering sums into Democratic primary races in an effort to unseat progressive opponents of Israel's war on the Gaza Strip. So if you're a national media reporter and you think that $100 million is not relevant, come on. Then just please, you're all liars. Go work in a different profession. Like, this is disgusting what you've done to news journalism. When I got into news, I thought they were really doing news. I guess you can call me naive, but I didn't know. I grew up in the 1980s. I thought it was real. It turns out it's all theater, all of it. The powerful own the media, and then they get the media to say what the powerful want, whether it's big pharma, big oil, the defense contractors, or Israel. And they tell the media, we're not just writing the history books, we're writing your news scripts. And you are to never mention Israel, you're never to mention that they purchased 94% of Congress. In fact, you're to get out there and pretend that you're the American ambassador to Israel, serve Israel instead, and say, oh, it's ludicrous to think that Epstein and Israel were connected, or that American politicians might be influenced by Israel. Ludicrous. Yeah, no. So look, this is me opening the curtain. Look at the frickin' wizard, okay? The Wizard of Oz is not magical. It is a group of people who are in favor of Israel, not Jews, guys. There's tons of wonderful Jews who are in the peace movement. Don't target anybody, but it would be the least progressive thing you could do if you target anyone based on race, religion, or ethnicity. But are there pro-Israel radicals in this country that have infiltrated our government, our media, have used disgusting people like Jeffrey Epstein, all in an effort to bribe and manipulate our politicians to serve a different country? That is now indisputable. That definitely happened, and it's definitely happening right now. And the job of the news media is to make sure you never find that out, and if that anybody ever tells you, to ruin their careers and lives so they're never allowed to speak again and go, anti-Semite, oh, the problem isn't Epstein. The problem isn't Israel purchasing the Congress. The problem is the people pointing it out. They're doing news. Rush in there and destroy them. Pitchforks. So news is pure propaganda. If you're listening, watching that junk on television, understand their whole effort is to manipulate you and brainwash you to get you to believe things that aren't true. Okay, John, You're Awesome, Damage Report, everybody, Monday through Friday, 1 o'clock Eastern. You gotta check it out. It's a great show. We got so much more, including more MAGA Civil War. Now Tim Pool attacks Donald Trump. We'll be back. Our audience has given us everything, so we couldn't be more connected. When we first started, people would start giving us directions and say, okay, the mics are too large, move them. Turn them into lav mics. I mean, they were incredible. And then one guy walked in and gave us a really expensive switcher and said, you guys need this, and walked out. Okay, it's amazing. They helped us build a studio. They did a $2 million funding campaign for us. And so they really are us. We do this show together to the point where some of our hosts are even former listeners. So when we say that the audience is part of TYT, we really mean it.
I think what the audience also appreciates is especially if they're members, they really get an inside look into who we are, our personal lives, what drives and motivates us. It goes beyond just storytelling. I think that what we do is allow our viewers and our listeners into our daily lives, and we give them kind of like this inside look into everything that we're passionate about and why it is that we're doing what we're doing, right? Like the motivation behind what we're doing, I think is important for our audience to know, and we're not shy about sharing that with them. And it's different from what people typically see in legacy media outlets where everything is kind of dry and robotic and there's really no personality or authenticity that comes along with it. Oftentimes when we're doing the show, I don't really think of it as me telling them stories. I think of it as us having a mutual respect and conversation with one another. And as I said earlier, I mean, not only do I feel that through the work I do, I'm informing our audience, but they inform me oftentimes as well. You know, they'll pitch stories to us. They'll tell us, you know, a certain perspective or angle to a story that we might have missed. And I love it.
You're about to watch some behind the scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member, go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind the scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show like, tyt.com/join, and enjoy this. You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey, hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitzing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny. Bye. I said it was live stream, but I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members. Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Cenk. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi, I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. I'll refer to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes. All right, back on TYT, Cenk Uygur and Yasmin Aliyah Khan with you guys. Check out Yasmin on Rebel HQ on YouTube and on our website, tyt.com. All right, Yas, we got a lot of stories, so let's do it.
Absolutely, let's roll the tape.
All right, the machine is now closed. Clerk will tally the roll. 19 ayes, 31 noes. This bill has been defeated. No, please stay quiet in gallery. Thank you.
Did anyone really expect a vote total like this, or a resounding rejection against President Trump?
Jake, they did not.
There's a man named Bray as I guess, head of the Senate. I mean, I'm sure that whenever his primary is, it's I think in 2 years, but I'm sure he'll go down.
Well, in a somewhat shocking turn of events yesterday, over half of Indiana's GOP senators from Indiana joined the Democrats in rejecting Trump's redistricting measure. And as you can expect, Trump and all of his minions, none of them are very happy. Cenk, this is incredible. What's your 2 cents?
Yeah, I'm shocked by it. I haven't seen anything like this in a long time. Tons of credit to the Indiana Senate Republicans on this issue. So, what are going to be the consequences from it? Well, let's find out.
All right, well, Trump's redistricting measure attempted to give Indiana a 9-0 advantage for the state's congressional delegation. So Indianapolis, the state's Democratic stronghold, would have been carved into 4 districts under the proposed map. Those districts would have matched urban neighborhoods with conservative rural counties. Some Democrats questioned whether splitting up the city, which has significant Black and Hispanic populations, would have amounted to an illegal racial gerrymander. So Senate Republicans debated the measure for the past few weeks amid a pressure campaign from Trump, by the way, to figure out which way they should vote, with some against the bill saying it was unconstitutional and that it would hurt people's trust in government. Who'd have thunk? However, Republican supporters, they did have something to say. Republican supporters of the plan framed the new map as a way to offset gerrymandering by Democrats in other states and boost the odds of a Republican majority in Congress. Some of them spoke in dire terms about what it might mean for the country if Democrats take control of the US House. I don't want to wake up the morning after the election in November and find out we lost the House of Representatives by 1 vote. The irony there being, they're worried about gerrymandering as part of a retribution campaign, but that's the only reason why the Democrats had to do it in the first place, because the Republicans started it. Texas started it, I think. Republicans hold the majority of the Indiana Senate seats with 40 out of the 50, but in the end, 21 Republicans voted alongside the Democratic minority to kill the measure. Obviously it's kind of hard to read all of their names, but the one highlighted in red there is Senate President Pro Tem Roderick Bray, who led the charge to vote down the measure. So Senator Bray has taken the brunt of the attacks from Trump, who's called Bray a rhino, a Republican in name only, and promised primary challenges against him specifically, which he did again when asked about the results of the vote yesterday.
Just a few moments ago, the Senate there rejected the congressional maps to redistrict in that state. A number of Republicans voted against that redistricting effort. What's your reaction?
You had one gentleman, the head of the Senate, I guess, Bray, whatever his name is. I heard he was against it. He'll probably lose his next primary, whatever that is. I hope he does, but because he's done a tremendous disservice. I mean, think of it. It's a great place. I love the people there. They love me. We won in a landslide all 3 times. Got tremendous votes, I got record votes. And then there's no reason for doing that. And the Democrats do it to us. I'm sure that whenever his primary is, it's I think in 2 years, but I'm sure he'll go down. He'll go down. I'll certainly support anybody that wants to go against him.
So yeah, if you couldn't already tell, there's going to be consequences for these Republicans. I have to imagine that they knew that going in though. So prior to the vote yesterday, Heritage Action, which is a sister organization for the Heritage Foundation, posted this to X. They said, President Trump has made it clear to Indiana leaders, if the Indiana Senate fails to pass the map, all federal funding will be stripped from the state. Roads will not be paved, guard bases will close, major projects will stop. These are the stakes, and every no vote will be to blame, pass the map. It's unclear if any of that will actually happen. Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith also posted this to X as well, saying he was specifically told this, but his post was eventually deleted. However, the additional threats of primaries are very, very real. In addition to Trump, Turning Point Action announced last week that they would partner with super PACs willing to fund their primary challengers. They've also officially lost support from Lieutenant Governor Beckwith and Governor Mike Braun. Beckwith posted to Facebook earlier today. He said, "One of the traits I have the least tolerance for is disloyalty. For years, Donald J. Trump fought harder for Hoosier values and American values than any president in my lifetime. And for that, he was vilified, smeared, dragged through the endless lawfare. His family and his business were targeted. His life was threatened and he was nearly assassinated. And all for what? So that Indiana politicians could grow timid, so that Indiana political careerists could retreat, so that last night the Indiana Senate could effectively tell a president who fought for us, go to hell." That's not just what they said to Donald Trump. That's what they said to the MAGA movement. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. But also, yesterday, the Indiana Senate faced a simple choice: stand and fight a Marxist movement, or choose dishonor. They chose dishonor. And as history has shown time and time again, those who choose dishonor will still get the fight. The war didn't start today, but today made it unmistakably clear who's willing to stand and who isn't. He sounds like he's in like a samurai movie or something. Now, Governor Braun didn't go that dark. He just said this in a statement. He said, "I am very disappointed that a small group of misguided state senators have partnered with Democrats to reject this opportunity to protect Hoosiers with fair maps and to reject the leadership of President Trump. Ultimately, decisions like this carry political consequences. I will be working with the president to challenge these people who do not represent the best interests of the Hoosiers." Jake, how many times did I have to say Hoosiers just now? Let me get your thoughts on this before I weigh in.
Yeah, so I agree with you. They sounded like Shogun there. You have dishonored the family. No, actually, they did the exact opposite. They stood on principle, which is so shocking. I'm stunned by this story. I give them a world of credit. If I looked at their legislative voting record, I probably disagree with them on, I don't know, 90% of their votes, 80% of their votes, I don't know. But I'm tempted to tell you guys to vote for them because it's so rare that you have politicians who act on principle. I mean, it could, in my 30 years or so of covering politics, I can maybe count it on one hand the number of times it's happened. So enormous credit to those 21 Senate Republicans in Indiana. I was like, no. And if you don't know, guys, first of all, gerrymandering is a cancer in this country. And I'm gonna prove that to you in a second. But normally it's done once the census is done at the end of the decade. So Trump wanted to cheat and he's like, let's just do it mid-decade because I'm not gonna be president later. I don't care what the precedent is. I don't care what the rules are. I want Republicans to keep Congress while I'm president. So just do it now. And in Indiana, they were like, but that's not the rules. It's not the law. It's not what that's not what we ever do. So, and if we do it, then the Democrats are going to do it the very, at any given day, et cetera, that they have the advantage. So this is just a bad idea that's going to lead to more chaos and anarchy. And he's like, oh, that's it. I'm going to defeat you. I'm going to take money away from your state. And they got super pissed at that when the Heritage Foundation put that comment out. So way to hold strong on the principles. Now on gerrymandering, guys, despise it. Any good American would, in fact, I don't even have to tell you that because I don't know a single actual human being who's not a politician who likes gerrymandering. Why? Because they split up the districts in comical, absurd, ridiculous ways so that the voters are no longer picking their politicians, the politicians are picking their voters so that they can't lose. And they manipulate it so that it's got nothing to do with actually representing the state. So for example, did Trump win big in Indiana? He did. He won 60 to 40. That's a huge advantage. That's 20-point lead, okay? So, but wait, if this redistricting had gone through, there would have been 9 Republican seats in the United States House of Representatives and 0 Democratic seats, 9 to nothing. But I just told you, Kamala Harris and the Democrats got 40% of the vote in Indiana. So if we were anywhere near democracy, and by the way, that's a red state, but the same is true of the blue states. So the blue states gerrymander it so that there's almost no Republicans. And it's not at all proportional to the vote, right? So again, back to the Indiana example, If it was around the percentages of their actual votes of the citizens of Indiana, it might be 5 Republicans and 4 Democrats, or maybe even 6 Republicans and 3 Democrats. But it wouldn't be 9-0. 40% of Indiana is Democrats. And Trump's saying, who cares? Who cares about stupid democracy? Who cares about the stupid laws? Let's just gerrymander right now and make it hyper absurd so they don't even have any representation. So this is terrible. Look, and lastly for now, Yaz, how can you tell that all of the politicians are crooks, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, on this issue? Well, everybody knows what the right answer is. You pass a national law forbidding gerrymandering so that the blue states and the red states can't do it. Texas can't do it, California can't do it, Indiana can't do it. That's the only fair way to do it. And that law would have about 98% approval in America. Everybody hates this. No one is doing it in Congress. No one's proposing it. You know why they're not proposing it? Because they all won through gerrymandered districts. So they're all crooks whose interests are 100% opposed to our interests, the voters' interests, no matter which party you're in.
Yeah, and the mid-decade gerrymandering is very disruptive. It's hard to do any kind of long-term planning as a politician or as a political candidate whenever you don't know if the districts are going to switch whenever they're not supposed to. I know here in Texas, this is kind of ground zero for this arms race that we're seeing right now. As you know, our president asked our governor to just fix the districts for him, and our governor was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever you need." And one of the results of that is Jasmine Crockett. It was very clear that her district was targeted in a way that she's very unlikely to win re-election in her district. So she's now running for the Senate. She's running for John Cornyn's Senate seat in 2026, and we'll see how that goes. But it has changed a lot of things here. And in Texas, we didn't get to vote on whether or not our districts would change mid-decade. In California, they at least got to vote and say, yes, we want to do this and we want to fight back against what's happening in places like Texas. And we're seeing this now spread all around the country. And I say this, I have said this before, I talk a lot about what goes on here in Texas. And sometimes I feel like my commentary can be a little bit too Texas focused, but I swear, whatever happens here, it's only a matter of time before it spreads to all the other red states in this country. And we see it time and time again. This is a very critical state, and it is like a battleground for these things because it's so deeply entrenched in red. And it wasn't always like this, by the way, but every time they win a district or they win an election, they make it more and more difficult for people like me to vote them out of office, right? And I hope that by now people are starting to realize that the system is rigged against so many working, happy people who want to live in these places, but we get no representation in our government. And there are countless different ways that they try to continually take that representation away from us. But one last thing I'll say, I know we have to take a break, is that I do think going forward, votes like this one are really going to stick and resonate with voters. Voters are looking for anybody from any party with some kind of integrity, anyone who is able to think for themselves and vote their conscience and do so even knowing that there are going to be consequences for doing so. I think that this is a huge moment, not just for Indiana, but for us as a country.
Yep. All right, when we come back, MAGA civil war continues. Now Tim Pool takes a punch at Donald Trump. So we'll show you that when we return. All right, guys, so first of all, Shop TYT has limited edition TDR hats. Dragon Daddy or Daddy Dragon, I don't know which way it goes, was here just a second ago. ShopTYT.com. There's only 75 of them. Once they sell out, they're gone forever. Oh, by the way, 15% off by using Gear Up at Shop TYT. That's on the activist collection. So Gear Up is your 15% off code on Shop TYT. By the way, this is from Shop TYT. It's one of the new TYT logos. I love this one, kind of gladiator style, kind of Rebel Alliance. So check that out. That's all at shoptyt.com. Substack, we're on there now. Check out our work on Substack. I've putting up a bunch of messages there. Our show is there and many other pieces of content. And of course, our sponsor, Noble Mobile. I keep reminding you guys because it's a good Christmas present for yourself. I swear to you that it took me under 10 minutes. I switched absolutely nothing in my phone. The service is perfect. Everything is good. And I'm now saving an enormous amount of money. And I want you guys to do it as well. tyt.com/switch, tyt.com/switch. Okay, now let's go to our members. Nostra Science says, is there anybody rich and powerful out there who didn't schmooze with Jeffrey Epstein? It is amazing how many of the most powerful people on earth he knew. Don Dada Dragon said, Jake, I think the populist plank needs an update. In the wake of Trump's executive order banning states from regulating AI and big tech needs to be there. I think the right wing would agree. We can't forget big tech while we fight the corporate agenda. Saudi Arabia is about to buy EA Games. When the next installment of Battlefield series is based in Yemen or Nigeria, we will have another generation poisoned by propaganda against a group of people. So I hear you on that. Look, I was thinking at some point in the last story about how should we put in end gerrymandering in the populist plank. So I'm a little worried about expanding it, but I will keep what you're saying in mind because it is a perfectly good point. So we'll see how that goes. Police at White House says, I can't wait to see how much money AIPAC squanders this midterm on trying to beat progressives and failing to do so. Well, I mean, don't count your chickens before they hatch. So AIPAC is working around the clock to make sure that they're hiding the money that they're getting to the candidates so people can't go AIPAC. Because now when they hear AIPAC, most Americans are revolted by it, right? So that's why they're not giving it through AIPAC anymore, started to disperse the funding in different ways to get it to the candidates. And so we might not be able to, it's a little bit harder to tell who the bad guys are. And of course, if you say, hey, those guys that are giving that money were connected to AIPAC, not only will traditional news not report that, they'll attack you and call you names. True Sights Dragon says, yay, I'm able to watch live tonight in my state. There's something right for a change. Good, yeah, God bless Indiana. Meowsers writes in, hold on, dire consequences for Democratic control. Have they met Democrats? They do. All right, back on TYT, Jen, can you ask with you guys more news?
All right, let's get into it. Roll the tape.
My personal opinion on a lot of this stuff, to get a bit conspiratorial, is of course there is a deep state. I believe that Trump is losing. I think Trump has done a lot of good things, but you take a look at like the Epstein files, you take a look at the MAGA coalition breakdown, and admittedly, the Trump administration has not been doing enough on affordability, grocery prices, and for this, the American people are wary.
That was right-wing podcaster Tim Pool admitting that the American people aren't really buying what Trump is selling when it comes to the economy. So Trump, as you know, recently gave himself a very laughable A+++++5+ rating on his handling of the economy. But who is he fooling? Cenk, your 2 cents, please.
All right, so we're gonna give you a couple more Republicans that are speaking out honestly on this issue in a minute. But then what I really want to tell you about is how this is Trump's Waterloo. So yeah, Epstein files opened a door that was catastrophic for Trump, in my opinion. Again, I'll explain why a little bit later. But I think of all the different issues, this is the most important. We'll talk about why in a minute.
All right, well, he is not the only one in Trump world who is slamming Trump for the way that he's trying to sell his economy. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I guess is technically ex-Trump world now, well, she had this to say about the impacts that everyday people and families are feeling as a result of Trump's tariffs and economic policies.
Electric bills have gone up. Everyone's bills have either stayed the same or going higher. Grocery prices have not gone down. Everybody suffered from inflation that happened during the Biden administration. And I think the president needs to be aware that he's a billionaire, president of the United States, and you can't gaslight people and tell them that their bills are affordable. And you can't tell them that the economy is an A+++. You just can't do that. And I think it's insulting to people's intelligence. And I don't care how many charts he wants to throw up. People literally know because they're the ones standing at the checkout counter in a grocery store. Let's be real, President Trump doesn't go to the grocery store and do his own grocery shopping. And they're the ones buying their kids clothes and you know, all kinds of goods and supplies for their families.
All right, so she then went on to discuss the ways in which small businesses have been negatively impacted ever since Trump took office.
There are also the small business owners that are struggling to continue their small businesses under tariffs that have made it hard. These are also manufacturing plants that are still struggling under tariffs and trying to work a new trade system in a volatile system. So I would encourage the president to have some empathy and to change his tone and how he speaks to Americans about how bad they're financially hurting.
Well, she's absolutely right. I don't think that he's ever going to change his tone and find empathy in his heart anytime soon. But take a look at this. Companies with fewer than 50 employees shed 120,000 jobs in November, according to data from payroll processing giant ADP. The sharp drop comes just ahead of a month that for many small businesses is the most pivotal sales period of the year. Yep, right before the holidays. Other changes not as obviously reflected in the data include hiring pauses or owners just not replacing employees who have quit for whatever reason. Consumer confidence being the lowest that it's been in 7 months, also results in lower profits, and also quality cuts having to be made just to keep the lights on. But maybe we all just need to stop complaining and get to work. Dan Pena had some thoughts on how young people complaining about the economy and the lack of jobs are just you know what it is. We're just not working hard enough.
My kid, when I got out of undergraduate school, my daughter took 7 months to find a job, and our son took 9 months to find a job. And they both found jobs, and it was a recessionary time in both cases by making hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of phone calls, hundreds and hundreds of letters out, going on dozens and dozens and dozens of interviews. And the kids today, because I have a fairly large consortium, it's got almost 40 companies, and the kids go one interview and they don't even call back to find out how they did.
All right, and if you were waiting for it, here it is. Take a look.
The elitists of that generation, in my opinion, are lazy. I mean, we don't have an affordability problem, in my opinion. All I know is when I bought my first house and my dad bought his first house that we couldn't afford, he went out and worked overtime. He got another job. The kids don't want to have another job. They expect right out of school to make all kinds of crazy money, six-figure money, and they have no experience whatsoever. So the affordability to me is a matter of choice. They're not looking hard enough and not working hard enough to get a job.
I'm sorry, who cares what this old man and his dad did when they were trying to buy a house? That's not the world that anybody lives in anymore. But he did mention that there is no affordability crisis in his opinion, but it's really not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of data. So in 2025, food price increases are outpacing their 20-year average as the Department of Agriculture expects grocery prices to rise 2.4%, restaurant meals to climb 3.9%, and overall food costs to increase 3%. Also, the price of major food staples like eggs, sugar, and meat, especially beef, all increase in 2025 and are expected to continue rising in the months ahead, according to the USDA. Housing costs also surged. In 2022, a typical household spent about 23% of earnings on a median priced home. Yet in 2025, that burden increased to 25% and has peaked at over 26%, according to the National Association of Realtors. Home prices climbed. The median single family home rose from $392,800 in 2022 to an average of $419,122 in 2025, per the National Association of Realtors. And since February 2020, electricity prices have surged nearly 40% per Federal Reserve economic data. The Affordable Care Act market showed a similar upward trend of 312 insurers, only 4 proposed premium reductions, while 125 requested increases of 20% or more, and 7 put forward hikes of at least 50%, according to health system trackers cited by Johns Hopkins School of Public Health. And finally, Stockholm-based buy now, pay later company Klarna recorded a 45% year-over-year jump in November, driven by US Black Friday volume. Cenk, it's also very convenient for people like Dan Pena to talk about jobs when the government has stopped releasing job reports. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, it's 2 different things here. So this whole bashing young people, oh yeah, I bought a house, I worked really hard and I got the whole $37 I needed for that house. Oh, shut up. The housing prices are so much higher now. Yes, adjusted for inflation, it's still massively higher than when grandpa bought his house for $12, okay? So they're living a fantasy land. They're like, what do you mean? I'm already rich and old and rich. So you stupid young people, it's all your fault, you're too lazy. Yeah, but drug prices weren't this, the housing prices weren't this, wages weren't this. So you don't know anything. You don't know any of the economic numbers. You're just a dumb old man just yelling at kids on your front lawn. So I'm sick of it. Now, to the current state of things and Trump's handling of the economy. This brother's in a world of trouble. So he had a lead on Biden and Harris on the economy when he was running for office. Do you know what the numbers are now? AP just did a poll released yesterday. 67% approve. No, 67% disapprove. Only 31% approve. That's minus 36, son. Minus 36 on the economy. The economy is by far the biggest issue. They're like, yeah, I don't want to go to a war with Venezuela. Yeah, I want to release the Epstein files, but I got to eat and I got to pay the rent, okay? So he's in a world of trouble. Okay, let's look at Republicans and independents as well. So 3 out of 10 Republicans disapprove of his handling of the economy. I mean, those Republicans never moved against Trump before. 3 out of 10 say no, he's doing a bad job. When you ask them, how's the economy doing overall? They want to say yes, but they can't. So 44% of Republicans, 44 say no, the economy's doing poorly. Some percentage of them are still like, it's not Trump's fault. It's not. It's a Biden. It's Jimmy Carter. It's Mao. Okay, but most of them are beginning to go, yeah, brother, you said you'd help, and this isn't helping. Now, it's not a majority yet for the Republicans. Well, now you know the Democrats know the economy's bad, and you know that they're going to say that Trump's doing poorly. That's not surprising. So, but what matters the most is independents. Independents these days decide elections, for sure. Right? 80% say no, this economy is poor to very poor, not going well at all. I mean, those are the kind of numbers where you go, na 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 na. Oh, if you say, 222, oh, knock on wood, don't you count your chickens before they hatch? There's a long time before the 2026 elections. All that stuff is true. But guys, making up 36 points is super hard, especially when you don't have a freaking plan. His plan was tariffs and it made it worse. What's his new plan? There is no new plan. The new plan was, tax cuts for the rich. So me and all my donors are super happy and loaded up with more of your money. Okay, you already did that. The economy still sucks. What's your new plan? They don't have a plan. Their plan is, well, now let's give more money to and deregulation to my AI donors. Let's attack Venezuela for my oil donors. None of that's gonna help the economy at all. It's gonna make it worse. So here, I'll say it now. Trump is never going to recover. Now you're gonna, that's crazy, Jake. We've seen Trump go up and down, up and down. It's been around 10 years. He's the hardest guy there is to knock out. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That brother doesn't know a single thing about the economy and doesn't care. And he thinks he's gonna BS his way out of it because that's what he's done with his entire life. So he's like, I give myself an A++++++. Problem solved, I lied to you. Now you all believe my lies. No, they don't believe your lies now. You lost 80% of independence. You're never gonna recover because here, if you're a Republican and you don't know this and you're gonna be angry at me, no problem, okay? I got news for you, the Republicans never have an economic plan. Their only economic plan is give everything to the rich, give everything to corporations and to their donors. That's it, full stop, that's their only plan. Democrats have a good plan, they just never do it. And they don't do it because the donors don't want them to do it. So it's not like the Democrats are innocent. But the Republicans literally, whether it's healthcare or the economy, I've never seen them have a plan for the average guy. I've never seen them pass a bill for the average guy. They're not gonna turn around all of a sudden and go, oh yeah, you know what, maybe we shouldn't serve our rich donors. Maybe we should help the average guy and come up with an economic plan to do that for the first time in our lives. Okay, go ahead and ask them. If you don't believe me and you're a Republican or a right winger, go ask your local Republican congressman or senator, what's your economic plan? I guarantee you it's going to be deregulation of their corporate donors that they have so they could rob you even more, and corporate tax cuts and tax cuts for the rich. That's it, that's it. I defy you to find me another plan from the Republicans to help you with anything. You're never gonna find it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and deregulation is really just a modern way of saying trickle down economics. They've just rebranded it and they thought that none of us would catch on to what they were doing. And yeah, as far as their new economic plan, Cenk, it is more tax cuts for the rich because that's what they're talking about now. And as far as their healthcare plan, they have never had a healthcare plan. Trump has been criticizing the Affordable Care Act since before he was ever even a presidential candidate. He was just dogging on Obama the whole time. They branded it as Obamacare so that their supporters wouldn't even realize that it's the same thing as the Affordable Care Act, and like miraculously that actually worked. But even when Trump decided to get into the ring, and that was one of the first things they asked him about because he was so outspoken in his disregard for the Affordable Care Act, they said, well, what would you like to do instead? And he has never had a plan. Even when he was a presidential candidate on the debate stage, he said he had concepts of a plan. He has never had a plan. He couldn't even be bothered to come up with like any kind of idea for what could replace the Affordable Care Act. He has never planned to have a plan. That's what it is. He's never taken the time to even consider what the average American, everyday American needs. And instead he just complains and he criticizes things, which is what he complains about other people for doing. And he has never had a plan. And I think that is very, very telling. But what is more telling is that up until now, people have voted for him as he had no policies, as he had no plans. I remember Elizabeth Warren during those debates, she had binders full of plans that she had thought up and come up with her team. She put it all together. Trump had none of that, and they still voted for him over somebody like her. And hopefully now these people who have voted for Trump, sometimes some of them 3 times, hopefully they're finally starting to realize that he doesn't actually care about you. He has no idea of what is coming in the future because he's not gonna be here for that future. He's worried about his kids maybe, but even that, is kind of a long shot.
So super last thing, when Biden was running and we were trying to get him out of the race, and we were like, in the beginning, we were the only voice saying, what are you guys, nuts? He's gonna lose. He's obviously gonna lose. First of all, he's 98 years old. He's fallen apart in the seams. He can't finish a sentence. But on top of that, he's sitting in an approval rating that is in the 30s. You cannot recover from that. No incumbent can recover from that. And all of a sudden, all the geniuses who follow politics and are supposed to know things like that are like, what? I don't know what an incumbent polling. I don't know what that is. And all of both the Democrats and legacy media pretended like they don't understand numbers. Now, if you're a Republican or a Trump supporter, and you want to ignore numbers just like the Democrats did, go have at it, Hoss. And you'll say the same things that they said, which is, oh, I don't believe in polling. Polling's, it's all I heard from the Democrats for 2 years straight was, I don't believe in polling. I don't believe in polling. No, we're gonna win. We're gonna win. I know everyone I know loves Kamala Harris, right? So now you could say that about Trump, but brother, he's at minus 36 on the economy. Game over already. Let alone it's only gonna get worse. It's not gonna get better. All right, but if you don't believe it, God bless. You could pretend that Joe Biden was young and dynamic too. Everybody's got their own fantasies that they want to believe in, but he's in a lot of trouble, and unfortunately, more importantly, the economy's in a lot of trouble. All right, we got to take a break here. We'll be right back. All right, so let's go to Super Chat. Mr. Polybius writes in, we Christians need to love Christ like Huckabee loves Israel. Okay, that's a good line. I might use that from time to time. On YouTube member section, my bean bags writes in, it's that all that darn avocado toast and Starbucks. Yeah, I'm sure it is, because they do say things like that. Burning Knuckles says, Crockett is going to have a hard time winning if she continues her support for Israel. Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch because like Jasmine Crockett is loved by a lot of Democrats because she fights back, but and fighting back is to some degree always performative, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you back it up with substance. But if you'd do fight back and I got you and all this stuff, and then at the end you're just also taking corporate PAC money and Israeli money, and you're no different, that's doesn't help us. So let's see how she reacts to that. Disrupt Daily says, I wonder if Trump realizes no one's afraid of him or his threats. See, that's the key, guys. If he can't take these guys down in Indiana, his power's gone. And remember, their elections for a lot of those Indiana Senate Republicans are in 2 years from now. 2 years from now, I think Trump's gonna be in the teens or 20s in the polling. So I don't think he'll have any kind of power to oust anyone in the primary, but maybe I'm wrong. And that'll be critical. If it turns out I'm wrong and he still has that kind of power, then he'll be able to boss the Republicans around for a long time. Luna Tickles writes in, Israel's the most cowardly state on earth. Contrast that with the courage and the perseverance of the Palestinian people. They lose 9 family members in one sweep and they keep the faith and go on. Yeah, the Palestinians are absolutely heroes. The whole world has sympathy for the Palestinians. Anybody's a decent person, they do, of course. And they've persevered through all of this. And if they ever get their state, I mean, the whole world is going to celebrate the unshackling of the Palestinians and the great suffering that they have had under at the hands of and really the brutal occupation of the Israelis. The Israelis are not allies, and they're not a moral country at this point. Now you can't occupy people for 58 years and then just brutalize them over and over and over again and pretend you're moral. No, you're not. And I don't care who's offended by that. That's obvious. If you don't think that, if you're still pretending that Israel is a moral country today, no, then I don't think you understand what morality means. Killjoy 100 said about Huckabee, wait, he's our ambassador, right? But honestly, that's our Congress, right? Not really, no, it's Israel's Congress. Israel owns almost all, 94% of them. Neil Whittington, 2023 says, I think Trump had Epstein offed. He was president, had plenty of power. That's what he keeps blocking why he keeps blocking the files release. Watch out, Downey. No way, no. Trump's too stupid to be able to do that. He doesn't have enough power by himself. The Democrats would have outed him in a second. And he's too incompetent. He would have given him an A++ for the assassination, and meanwhile he'd be like next to the body. No, it's not him. It's the intelligence agency. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Yaz with you guys. One more story.
One more story, let's do it.
They supported President Trump's efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 election. Rudy Giuliani, then Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, and 75 other allies have been pardoned.
This is bigger than Donald Trump.
The White House says these great Americans were persecuted and put through hell by the Biden administration for challenging an election, which is the cornerstone of democracy.
Well, Trump is primed to pardon, and last night he announced that he will be pardoning Tina Peters, the election-denying former county clerk from Colorado. In 2024, she was convicted in connection with a voting systems security break. Problem is, this is really just a symbolic pardoning. It doesn't mean a whole lot because Peters was convicted of state crimes, and the president can't pardon a state crime. So Peters was convicted last year of 4 felonies and 3 misdemeanor charges. She was sentenced to 9 years in prison, which she is currently serving. More on that later. But here is what Trump wrote about Peters on Truth Social. He said, Democrats have been relentless in their targeting of Tina Peters, a patriot who simply wanted to make sure that our elections were fair and honest. Tina is sitting in a Colorado prison for the crime of demanding honest elections. Today, I am granting Tina a full pardon for her attempts to expose voter fraud in the rigged 2020 presidential election. Trump can't pardon Peters, though, and the Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser has confirmed this, saying the idea that a president could pardon someone tried and convicted in state court has no precedent in American law, would be an outrageous departure from what our Constitution requires and will not hold up. But it gets weird. Because of course it does. If we recall Trump's attempt to deny and overturn the 2020 election results, there were a lot of very strange players involved, including Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy. Haven't heard a lot from him lately, which is, typically a good thing. But Peters' conviction involved her use of someone else's security badge to give someone connected to Lindell access to the election equipment. And also yesterday, Mike Lindell announced that he is running for governor of Minnesota next year. And if the people of Minnesota flip from Tim Walz to Mike Lindell, they deserve everything they get. Cenk, what do you think?
Yeah, so the press is doing him a weird solid here. They keep saying that it was a symbolic pardon, but Trump never said that. He's never intimated that. And I read his whole statement. His statement is very clear. He's wrote it like he's giving her a pardon, like the other pardons that he's given that actually he could give because they're at the federal level. I don't think he knows that he can't give her a pardon. And so look, this is where I lose a lot of right wingers who get deeply offended when I talk about how unintelligent Donald Trump is. And B, I actually lose a good number of folks in the left and the middle who are like, Cenk, come on now, come on. He's the president, he got elected twice. Of course he's gotta be smart. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He's a one-trick pony. Go run towards the spotlight and talk. Trump. Meanwhile, the Democrats are hiding in a cave. I mean, who couldn't beat those idiots? So the reality is, he keeps talking about, I took the IQ test and I passed it like no one's ever passed it. It was a cognitive, mental cognition test that's for dementia. They're like, sir, we're giving you a test for dementia. Congratulations, you don't have it. I knew it, I'm the best genius IQ guy. It's not an IQ test, you moron of morons, okay? He hides his grades from all the way to high school. He threatens to sue or imprison people that look at his grades. Who does that? Who's that insecure? A guy who probably got nothing but Fs and his daddy got him into every school. He's a spoiled little brat. So we're forgetting that he said we should inject disinfectant into our lungs to cure COVID. Come on, guys, come on. He doesn't know he can't pardon her. He's a moron. He doesn't know any of our laws or rules. And after he lost in 2020, he's like, well, if you have fraud like this, of course you can terminate the Constitution. No, you can't, that's not a thing. So, and recently, just actually last night, he did this again. Let's show you the video with Melania.
I went to the hospital and they actually thought he wasn't going to make it. His wife was devastated. She was crying. I tell the story. I found out that night you have a wife that loves you dearly. I know many wives would not even be crying. But your wife was absolutely a mess. She was crying. She was Inconsolable, Steve. So we found that out, but he made it.
Who doesn't know to not tell that story, let alone to not tell it when your wife's right next to you, right? You know, he gets shot, looks like he's gonna die. Turns out his wife is upset about it. Some wives aren't. Pan over to Melania. He has no sense at all, at all. He probably thinks, that's it, I saved Tina Peters, I pardoned her. Sir, you only have federal pardon power. I pardoned her. I got an A+++ on my pardon. All right, brother. You go ahead. Good. You know what? She's out. You can now move on with your life because your pardon saved her. No, she's facing 9 years.
Yeah, just like the way that he told that weird story as his wife is standing right next to him, and everyone knows that Melania would never cry over Donald Trump. Everyone knows that as soon as Donald Trump is no longer, however that happens, she's gonna take Barron and run back to Europe, right? That's like she can't wait to get out of here. But like this whole thing is so ridiculous. I can't wait for the end of these Trump years, however that happens. And it's just so ridiculous. It would be so nice and so refreshing to just have a president who actually understands how the law works and how governance works and how our country works. So, you know, we're looking forward to better days ahead because they have to come at some point. Like they have to come. That's it.
Yeah, you would hope so.
I really do hope so.
Super last thing. I thought Republicans hated voter fraud. She was convicted on voter fraud. Now we're gonna pardon people who do voter fraud as long as they're doing it for Trump? Okay, guys, we're done with the regular show. I got the revolution coming up. We got a great candidate for you guys. And can he beat a very corporate Republican in a red district? Well, not because of the redistricting. Things are actually, the Republicans might overplay their hand. So it's fascinating. I want to get to that when we return. That's for everybody, of course. Yes, you're awesome. We appreciate you. Everybody check her out on Rebel HQ and have a wonderful weekend.
Absolutely. Everybody else, have a wonderful weekend. Take care.
All right, guys, I'll be right back. All right, welcome to the revolution, peaceful political revolution. Our government sucks, we're looking to change it. So we're bringing on some folks who are looking to change it on a personal level. So joining me now is Hartzell Gray. He's running in Missouri 4, I think, but the redistricting has made it a mess. Hartzell, welcome to the show.
My brother, this is incredible. Thank you for the time, the platform. I am honored to be here. Let's break it down, brother. Let's break it down.
Okay, I like it. I like your energy. Okay, so first, before we even get to the redistricting and the mess with the districts and who you're going to run against, etc. You're a young guy. Why'd you decide to run for Congress?
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I'm born into this struggle. You know, I am the great grandson of a former sharecropper who brought her family here to Kansas City looking for a better life for her, but also the future generations that she knew was going to come after, you know, including my grandmother, who was a student of Angela Davis, you know, who shows me all the time her pamphlet from 1968 autographed by Angela Davis, you know, and my mother, who was a nurse, you know, she literally saves lives every single day. Literally just saved a life 2 days ago. So shout out to my mom. And, you know, my father is an artist. He's a photographer. So I was able to learn and shape and craft my voice. And, you know, brother, again, I'm born into this struggle. It is one of liberation. You know, I am proud and honored to be a freedom fighter. I'm proud to be a democratic socialist. You know, I am proud to know where I am when this moment called for us. The urgency of now is right now, says MLK, you know, and it's with that I take the fighting spirit to this fight. You know, I'm not just a son of my district. I am an organizer. I'm an activist. I've organized here locally with, you know, from tenants to climate activists. You know, on a national level, I'm the national coordinator for a group called Young Progressive Democrats of America. You know, I am so thrilled that in my journey, I've been surrounded by the working class, you know, a group of folks who, like you, my brother, we preach economic populism. You know, we know that we got us because we have to have us, you know? And so I'm running to match the courage of my folks. I am running because we deserve it all. I'm running because my great grandmother who moved us here, who I miss so much, 99 years old, her name's Priscilla. We called her Mama Silla, right? And, you know, Mama Silla, who moved us here for a better life, I can't live in the neighborhood that she raised me because I can't afford it. Because private equity has just completely dismantled and ruined us. Because the government, who decided that her spot should be geared towards rich white folks and luxury development, and she took a bad deal for pennies on the dollar. And I'm running because that ain't right. And I tell you what, no matter where the districts are, no one would tell you that that is right. And so I'm organizing with the folks on our ground so that I can walk with my folks as we call for universal health care, Medicare for all, as we guarantee housing, as we guarantee a job here in my district. I'm running on a guaranteed job that makes you at least $25 an hour. You know, I'm running so that we can tax the rich and not just tax them, we're gonna tax the hell out of them. And we're gonna redistribute that wealth. We're gonna get money out of politics, because if we do those two things, we can guarantee our basics like Medicare for all. We can guarantee the right to just rest, right? And so this is who I am. This is the fight. This is the wing of the fight that I'm in. You know, we're gonna talk about this, I'm sure, in this gerrymandering struggle. We got folks going to the courts. We got folks launching petitions. And this is me saying they're not gonna silence our voice. They're not gonna silence an economic populist message. And so game on, let's go.
So I'm gonna ask you about how to win in that area and what you mean by liberation, et cetera. But first, you got an important endorsement the other day. Tell us about who's endorsed you recently.
We have been so fortunate, my brother. I mean, this is an insurgent campaign. You know, we are growing this with our folks. It's grassroots in every sense of the definition. So when we have folks like Congressman Ro Khanna, who takes a chance on us, who puts his name on an endorsement for us, it is an honor. It's a privilege, you know, it is letting us know that we're on the right path and we're being reinforced by some incredible champions. You know, we got endorsement recently from Kansas City DSA, which is one of the fastest growing chapters of DSA in the country, perhaps even right there after New York. Over 500 active members that we've got, Progressive Democrats of America, PDA, one of the first orgs, if not the first org to help launch Bernie's campaign back in 2015. They were my very first ever endorsement. We got Politivus, which is, the product of the brilliant Rep. Cori Bush. I'm just so honored to know that we have folks who are ready to meet this moment, who are going to craft a message that's going to materially make our folks better. Rep. Khanna is taking a chance on us. I'm hoping that the folks of our district can take a chance on us. And I feel really good, man. I feel good. And I got Jank here on the call, so I'm feeling real good on a Friday.
All right, so Hartzell, let's talk about how to win that race. So yes, now you were gonna run against a Democratic incumbent, which I appreciate because I think that I believe in primaries and we got to get new blood in there, one that's not corrupted. By the way, no corporate PAC money, right?
Not a dime, brother, not a dime. AIPAC, in fact, if I can make this a brief aside, we hadn't even filed, we had filed against Cleaver and running in the 5th district here in Missouri. Hadn't made it public, hadn't announced anything. I told my mom and a couple homies, but I get a DM, somebody slid into the IG. It was a Sunday night and they said, hey, I want to congratulate you on your run in Missouri's 5th against Emmanuel Cleaver. I'm with one of the biggest lobbying firms in the country. Would love to reach out and chat. And I said, okay, here's an email. This is weird. Come to find out, no, there's no fog in this one. It is from insert name at AIPAC.com. And the first thing we did after we got that AIPAC email was we sent it to spam. We sought the endorsement of AIPAC Tracker. We received it. We're not taking a dime from anybody, no domestic or foreign. If you're a corporate PAC, if you're shilling on behalf of a rogue state committing genocide, I'm talking about Israel, I don't want it, don't need it.
Yeah. That's amazing. Isn't that amazing, guys? If you're out there watching that, I mean, the public doesn't even know that Hartzell's thing you're running against Cleaver, but AIPAC already knows. Because
already, it was absolutely unbelievable. And by the way, Cleaver is a 20-year AIPAC candidate. So that should tell you a little bit about the mindset of these folks who are trying to take away our democracy, the dark money. And again, like this isn't just about me, what they did to me, what they're trying to do to this seat. Again, this is messaging that is not just me against AIPAC. I want to get all of this money out of politics because it's not just AIPAC, it's all the other dark MAGA fueled money, but also it's the same money that's funding corporate Dems. It's big pharma, it is big ag, which we have to deal with here in my district, right? And so yes, we made that announcement, that call that we're running against Cleaver. We already were trying to get, people trying to buy us out. We said no. And as we were continuing with this race, the gerrymandering fight happens. And so now these maps are signed into law. And let's not make any mistake about what this is. This map is illegal. This map is unconstitutional. This map is an assault on the working class. And by working class, I'm talking about in this situation, gonna very much disproportionately affect our Black and brown folks. It's gonna affect our poor folks. And in this reality, our folks refused to say that we're gonna be silenced. This is what we do in this state, in this city, in this district, we fight back. This is just what we do, this is who we are. And if so, they want to put us in this 4th against a MAGA mouthpiece, an actual clown, then let's go, expect us, we will be here, we got us. Listen, Cenk, I never would have imagined that I would have the opportunity to run against Mark Alford in the 4th district. This man is cartoonishly silly. This man is a former Fox anchor. I myself, in addition to my organizing, my activism, I am a media personality. I'm a former NPR host. I have a name recognition in this city. I was #1 at night from 7 to midnight. We were playing Jack White records. We were playing Childish Gambino, and then I would have a tenant organizer on the call. So we are ready for this fight, and we are ready to flip this seat. They played themselves, and so now in the Show Me State, they have shown their butts, to put it nicely, and so now we're coming for theirs.
Yeah. So is it possible that they're going to switch back the district, or that's it? You're definitely running against them.
So let's break it down because it is absolutely confusing, and that's completely the point. right? And so what we have been doing, again, I am trying to match the courage of the people of our district. Like I said, right? We've got folks who went to the court. We've got folks who have launched petitions and a referendum to put this map on the ballot so our folks can say this is not right. And so just a few days ago, in fact, some incredible folks here, people not politicians, just incredible folks who have collected over 300,000 signatures that were sent in. And so here is the tragic reality of where we are, is that yes, we hopefully will have the signatures we need to get this referendum put on the ballot. But we have been under constant assault. This is an assault on our democracy, not just from President Trump, but coming from our state house as well, from the governor, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General. And so let's say that we are allowed to keep those signatures. It goes onto the ballot. Well, what the legislature can do in Jeff City, and the Republicans have a supermajority, is that they can call the election early. They don't have to wait until November of 2026. They could call this thing the next day after their vote, and then they could pass this all over again. That is just the reality of what we are facing. We don't back down from it. This is how it is, but it's not how it's gonna be. And so that is where it stands right now. So in the event that we go back into the 5th, my brother, I tell you this, I ran initially against Cleaver because I knew, and our folks know who I walk with, that we are not getting the representation that has a progressive, economic populist vision. We don't have representation when you have someone who is bought out for 20 years by AIPAC, who has a worldview that is dated. It's not his age. While you're in your 80s, we have some of the best folks who are our elders, but guess what? His worldview is dated. He can't say the word abortion. He can't say Medicare for all. So I was running, and I'm always running on a platform of liberation. And that doesn't matter if it's a D or an R. There is no boundary line that tells me you don't deserve it all. You deserve it all.
So
we deserve it.
So I'm going to assume that they're not going to move the districts because it's a Republican supermajority and they're the ones who drew the lines in the first place. So that means you're almost certainly going to run against Alford. And well, that's kind of a fun thing because then you'll be a rare candidate who ran against both a corporate Democratic incumbent and a corporate Republican incumbent in the same race, in the same cycle. So that's kind of a fun little thing. So, and it also, by the way, goes to show your principle that this isn't just partisanship, but you believe in your policies and you would have run against the Democrat just as much as you would run against a Republican. So
absolutely.
Now, Missouri does have a Republican supermajority. You're running in Missouri. Now, of course, it's a district within Missouri, but how do you win when you've got those kind of odds against you?
Man, listen, campaigning is relational. Okay, so let's I guess lay out some of these numbers, at least the numbers that we know as of right now, right? So before the gerrymandering, this was an R+40 district. And like I told you earlier, Jake, I think they played themselves because what we have now is an R+20 district. Okay, so how do we do this, right? How do we pull up this history that we've been talking about? So it's a few different things. It is number one, it is traditional outreach, it is phone banking, it is canvassing within the urban core. It is giving our folks a reason to believe. I mean, get this. In 2024, a presidential year, Jackson County, which is where I live, it is still the biggest county within this new district. I'm here in Kansas City. My brother, turnout was down over 30%. So that right there, here's what we got to do. We got to engage our folks. We got to give our folks a reason. Against Alford, they've never seen this kind of transformational economic populist vision, and against Cleaver, the same thing. And so that is what we do, number one. Number two, it is igniting and activating a growing left-leaning suburban cohort. I've got folks here in the suburban, for example, an area called Lee Summit, Missouri, right? I actually went to high school there, Lee Summit West, Titan Pride. And so what happened in Lee Summit, brother, is that they went Romney +8, and then here in 2024, went Kamala +3 to 4. I mean, listen, there is something happening. So I will be able to grab the wine moms and the soccer dads and honestly help them cultivate this ecosystem that they are doing themselves. Again, we got us. Nobody's gonna save us. And so that is what I think is our second pillar. And third, which I think is probably the one that most folks are interested in, especially in this new reality, is how you gonna talk to your rural folks. And I tell you the same thing I would tell anybody, no matter who you're talking to. It is relational. That is how you talk to our rural folks. You're there. You have conversations. Listen, if I can meet you at the grocery store, if I can meet you at church, and I talk to mom, I talked to her about this vision of that. You know what? The reason why you don't have a home, the reason why your nursing home is so much worse now for your mom is because private equity has brought it out. It's not because of the Somalis. It's not because of our immigrants. We began to start connecting those dots. And so if I got mom, well, shoot, she might go home and she might tell the family. So I got mom, dad, I got brother and sister. And so you know what, Mal, maybe they're going to talk to that family next door. And then maybe cousin's going to talk to everybody on that street. My brother, the point I'm trying to say is it's all relational, and we build up an army of volunteers who, while maybe I'm not knocking on this specific door, I've got folks who live in that area who know those folks who are going to knock doors on my behalf. And, I think when we do that, we win.
Yeah. So if you were able to pass Medicare for all, would it also apply to right-wingers? If you were able to lower drug prices, would it also apply to Trump voters? If you were able to lower housing prices, would it also apply to, by the way, not only white folks, but white rich folks, because housing prices are housing prices. So are your bills and your policies, et cetera, going to affect everyone or just a small group of people?
It's for everybody, brother. Are you kidding me? I don't know. I forget the phrase, but when the tides rise, all them boats are going up or something like that. I mean, listen, it's the days of means testing, the days of inter-class fighting. No, like this is a time where we need serious people with a serious vision and one that is rooted in a humanity of all of us. Now, listen, we're going to tax the rich. Don't get that twisted. But I still believe that Patrick Mahomes, deserves universal health care. I still believe that our folks deserve a guaranteed job if and when they need it. I believe that we all deserve a climate that's going to be around for a while. I believe that we all should be free and be fed. To quote our brother Zoran, to be free and fed is for everybody, brother. So yes, are you kidding me? Yes, absolutely. That's how we win, man. We do this together, and that's not us singing at a campfire. That is just us realizing that we have to have each other because we deserve to have each other, and we deserve to have the best of each other.
Okay, thanks for reminding me that Mahomes is, of course, Kansas City, right? So maybe a political.
I think that's actually a fair point, brother, because I think sometimes even as folks here on the left, people say that we're demonizing the rich. Listen, I just don't think billionaires should exist. That is who I am. That's my ideology. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is a bad guy. You kidding me? But I do think we should tax the hell out of him, and we should redistribute that wealth to the homies here on the ground.
And you know what? If forget Patrick Mahomes, if Kelsey's got a house in Kansas City and Taylor Swift moves in, now we're talking real money. Okay, so that'll get some some benefits for the average folks in Kansas City right there. All right, so tell me what you think liberation is.
Man, liberation to me, Cenk, liberation to me is when you're going to the grocery store. If you're a single mom going to the grocery store, you don't have to worry about putting items back because it's either we get this or I can't afford medicine or I don't have enough to cover rent next month. I think also liberation is knowing that I am investing in a country that's investing in me, not sending our money to fund and fuel Israel's genocide or to fuel the war machine all across the world, from Sudan to the Congo to, of course, Palestine. Liberation to me is being able to have the right to rest, right? What a concept. And I believe, again, like I said earlier, we can be free and we can be fed. FDR said that you would be shocked how much you're willing to give up your liberty in search for a meal at night, and so I believe to my core that we deserve the basics. We deserve to have healthcare, housing. We deserve to have a job. We deserve to know that we're gonna, redistribute this wealth and make sure that everybody's taken care of. That's liberation, man. And liberation is a shared struggle. It's a shared journey. We do it together. That's how we do it. No one's free till we all are free. So let's be free.
Yeah, so look, I believe in getting our government back, and I believe in a peaceful political revolution, right?
Amen.
So what does that mean to you? So if you get into Congress, what does revolution, political one, look like to you inside Congress?
Listen, political revolution to me is looking at our folks taking their power back. A political revolution is when I see the organization and the work being done by tenants all across my district. Revolution is when we show up for each other because the Sunrise Movement here in town noticed and saw how our city hall is criminalizing the homeless here, and they are taking away the benches from our bus stops. And so our local activists here say that ain't right, that's unacceptable. And so we build benches and we put them up. And guess what? The city every time takes these benches back and they put them in the pavement downtown. But guess what? Our folks still show up. That is the revolution. The revolution is saying that you deserve it all. That's it. It is small acts of resistance that turn moments into movements. I mean, the time is now. We are in a moment that requires this. And I think that we're ready for it. I know we're ready for it.
So tell me what's wrong with Mark Alford.
How much time you got?
Yeah, a couple of minutes.
I mean, listen, Mark Alford is a performer for the president. He is a performer for his backers and corporate interests. Mark Alford has lost grip of the truth, and maybe he never had it to begin with. This is the same guy who will take, PR trips to our local rural hospitals and talk about how they signed this big bill that's gonna bring all this money, as you literally signed off on the big disgusting bill that's going to defund all of our rural hospitals. You're using our folks as props when you know that you just sentenced our folks to death. You took our food away off of our folks' table, And so while I have folks who still very much want to believe in Donald Trump and what they believe the MAGA movement stands for, they also know that Mark Alford didn't stand in the way of their family farm being decimated because no one is buying any more of our soybeans or our wheat. It's not that, Trump gave them a bailout or farm aid. They're mad because that money's not going to them. It's going to the creditors, And so Mark has stood in the way of none of that. And this time requires serious people. That is not who he is. He's an AIPAC funded genocide denier, corporate shill, and it's time to flip this seat, man. It's just time, and this is going to be history. This could be the seat that brings us the majority in 2026, and what I think is going to be a tsunami at oceanic levels. And we are ready, and Mark's making it real easy for us.
All right, now I'm going to pop a question you didn't expect, because it's not a normal question in a political interview. But it does have to do with politics. So now I wear two different hats, right? I'm a host at TYT. I also founded a Rebellion PAC, and their job is to help get populists elected into office who don't take corporate PAC money, who serve the people. So, would you like to join a Rebellion PAC?
Is water wet? Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, the Patrick Mahomes of politics has just joined the rebellion.
Ooh, put that on a shirt, folks. Put that on a shirt.
All right, Hartzell, seriously, like I love your energy, and I love
thank you, brother.
That there are young people in this country who are tired of the way that our government has mistreated the American people, and you want to do something about it, and you're undaunted, unbossed, and you. It's obvious that you're earnest and that you want to actually try to help folks. And first of all, I'm telling everybody, vote against incumbents, period. Second of all, any person like Alfred who takes corporate PAC money, Israeli lobby money, they just work for those guys. Everybody knows they work for those guys. So if you're in Hartzell's district, just the fact that he's going to represent you and not the donors is already enormous, enormous. Doesn't matter what part of the political spectrum you are. Look for honest people, right? More important than anything else. But Hartzell, I love that you're in the race. I love that you're part of the rebellion now, and thank you for giving it all your all. And if you beat that, brother, when it's a plus 20 district now, a couple of things will happen. Number one, it'll shock the world, and make a huge difference in terms of Congress. But number two, what it might actually send a message, not just to Republicans, but to both parties. Hey, you better be careful with that gerrymandering, because you gerrymander these districts a little too much, and they're not gonna be as safe as you think they are, because somebody like Hartzell Gray is gonna come up and catch you. So let's see if Alfred gets caught. Hartzell Gray, hartzellforcongress.com is the website.
That's me.
And we'll put the link in the description box below, hartzellforcongress.com. Hartzell, thank you, man. Appreciate you joining us.
Cenk, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
All right. Okay, look at that. All of a sudden, the rebellion grows. Okay, I love it. All right, guys, so that's your revolution for today. I will come up with a story, because I don't have one yet, and I'll tell it to you for the members after we come back. So hit the join button below on YouTube, tyt.com/join, anywhere else. And I'll tell you a lovely, probably holiday story. We're in the holiday moods. We'll be back.